Yeah!
They didn't think it went in, but it hit the back bar, popped right out.
Went in the back of the net, pal.
I knew it was in.
It didn't go in.
That did not go in.
Nope. That's how you fucking sell a goal. Fucking raise your arms up and start screaming. Did you see if my goal went top corner?
No.
Did it go top cheese? 16, McLeod? All right.
I've walked across Tasmania, seen the Antarctic dawn, but it just don't compare with old Saskatchewan.
Alrighty, folks, welcome back to another episode of Live in 5, baby. We're at a milestone number, Azo. I love just hard, rounded numbers, and that is episode number 60 across your goddamn chin over here at Live in 5. Sitting across from me, as always, is the captain, Gage, Azo Ausmus, freshly back with service from Rifle, Colorado. We'll get into his weekend recap and or week recap just after we do some ad reads and this and that. But, folks, thank you, as always, for tuning in to Live in 5. We are bringing you just things that you can't get anywhere else in the podcast game. This week, Azo, we have quite the character joining us on Live in 5. Lindy McLeod, live from Moose Jaw, called in on the other side of his barn, I believe, there, just outside of Moose Jaw up in Saskatchewan. So thank you to Lindy for joining us, folks. If you don't know who he is, you're going to find out quick. He is quite the character and hilarious in his own right, Azo. I think that was a great interview. I'm not exactly sure where it went or how it's going to sound, but I think that people will enjoy it. So thanks to Lindy again for stopping by. An absolute legend. He is up in Moose Jaw, a senior A men's league legend, former roommate with Mike Babcock at the U of Sask, does not own a passport, has never been to the U.S. So, folks, you will get a look, and yes, you'll get a look at his chin, but also that permy sporting, you'll get into it a little bit and you'll hear about it, but that's all natural. And he's one of his secrets. I'm an avocado oil guy myself with the wig on. His is all natural. It's not a wig, and he puts a little coconut oil in that thing. So, folks, Lindy McLeod joining us live from Moose Jaw later. As we always do, we do the pre-show over here at Live in 5 before we get to our guest. And Azo, we plug our YouTube page. Folks, subscribers are going up by the day. We're trying to get to 5,000. I think we're just under it again last week. Some great viewership in terms of our YouTube page. I think we got almost 1,000 viewers with no guests last week, Azo. It's hilarious that we've had some big-time guests on this show, anywhere from Colt Nost, who's on the Golf Channel, Subpar Podcast. We've had Darren Drager on. We've had Jordan Binnington on. We've had some big-time guests on here. But for whatever reason, our two most viewed shows on YouTube is just when I'm sitting chin on chin with you across the screen. And I don't know what the algorithm's pumping out. Maybe they don't like some of the stuff we're saying in these interviews. Maybe we're getting a little offside, but for whatever reason, when people, it's just us, the most viewership we're getting on YouTube is strictly us two. So I don't know. Is that a coincidence? Is that just something with the algorithm, or is that just luck of the draw?
It's got to be a little bit luck of the draw, but I do feel like we've had a couple good episodes without a guest too. So it's got to be a little bit luck of the draw, but also I think the people don't mind us two just hashing it out.
Yeah, a couple middle-aged assholes over here at Live in 5, chalking it up for the people. So we thank you again for liking that, subscribing to our YouTube page. That is at Live in 5 2024 at YouTube. Don't cost you a dime. Go like everything. Go subscribe. Again, comment if you like the show. If you don't like the show, whatever it is, we like the feedback. And again, it's engagement that kind of just drives those subscribers up. So, folks, please go over to at Live in 5 2024 on our YouTube page. Go check that out. Like it if you haven't yet. And again, watch our chins go live on YouTube versus just listening on Apple or Spotify. We'll take the views any way we can. Azo, we are brought to you always by Mini Movers and Butter Golf. Mini Movers, the official moving company of Live in 5. Again, if you need something packed, you're going across the state of Minnesota, maybe into the Wisconsin lines, or maybe up in North Dakota, maybe even somewhere just in the Midwest. Like we always say, give the fellas at Mini Movers a call, or go over to their socials or website at Mini Movers on IG and X, minimovers.com, to get a free quote today. Give those boys a call, Azo and Clint and the whole gang over there. Always brought to you by Butter Golf as well. We're wearing Azo sporting the Camo Forks hat that'll be released sometime soon. I got the rally cap that we sold out of in the tan and black option after the Amazon series with Willie Styles Nylander. rocking that. So Azo, I packaged up about 100 of those hats yesterday, just sweating
Did
it out. Just sweating it out in the sweatshop, kind of like the early days of mini movers when you were just.
You still got that motivation, Jordan? You still put the handwritten note in there?
I do, and you know what? Every time I do it,
people love that.
I question it, but I know it's bigger than me, and I think it goes a long ways for the customers. I think at some point, Azo, they'll get to the point where they'll have to just be like, pre-scripted messages from yours truly, but I write their name on it. I write a little something about maybe their hometown, where they're from. I mean, it's pretty crazy to say, like, obviously we're still in the early phases of what it is at Butter Golf as a glorified startup over here, but it's pretty crazy that we've hit every state, all 50 states, even Hawaii, the last frontier, and obviously Canada as well. But I just like packaged it up and ordered the other day from Shreveport, Louisiana. It's like, who the hell in Shreveport? Yeah, it's our second customer from Shreveport. It's not even a reoccurring customer. I don't know if these two are married or whatnot. One's a guy, one's a girl. But yeah, Shreveport, Louisiana, we're hitting that. I filled one from Starkville, Mississippi. I've done orders from Honolulu, Maui, Alaska was in there on this order. So it's pretty crazy, man, that these are going all over the place. I've done the Yukon Territory as well up in Canada. So
no way.
Yeah, it's just kind of cool. The hockey community is obviously sparse and, it's spread out and whatnot. But yeah, it's pretty cool just seeing where people are from. And again, I try to give it the Butter Golf handwritten touch. So folks, go over to butter.golf to check out our latest merch. And are these hats? I'm wearing the rally cap. We're sold out right now in both colors, but there's some other good options. Azo, you know who I might be dropping some stuff off to later in the week? And I don't want to get too horny about this, but I think the people, if this guy is rocking this, and especially as much as I like the association, I'm dropping some stuff off to Devin Booker, his manager. We got to be on the lookout if D Book is in some butter. Now, I don't want to speak too soon, so we'll see. This shit could just get thrown to the wayside. He sees it. I'm sure he gets brands all the time, and he's got his Nike deal. But you never know.
He might pick that up, though.
He might pick it up, and it might, just be walking into the old Suns Arena down there and the Footprint Center. And if he has a good game in it, now he's in it all the time. So you never know, right? You got to throw it out there and see what happens. Again, he could look at that and be say, what the hell is this? I ain't rocking this shit. But you never know, Azo. So we're going to put it into his hands, and if you build, they will come. So, folks, be on the lookout for that. Again, Butter Golf Mini Movers, the official, two brands over here backed by nothing but our sack and our chins over here at Live in 5. We're going to do our ad read from Gladiator Therapeutics, as we always do, from Dr. George Michaelopoulos. And that is, are you tired of dealing with chronic aches and pains or neurological conditions? Gladiator Therapeutics offers a revolutionary solution using quantum physics to improve your health. Our devices use patented technology to emit far infrared light, stimulating cellular processes without heat. This can reduce inflammation, speed up healing, and enhance mobility. Clinical trials show impressive results, including a 400% increase in survivability in stem cells, accelerated wound healing up to 68% faster, and significant improvements in Parkinson's disease model. Wearable 24/7 without power, our devices can be a game changer. Visit www.gladiatortherapeutics.com/contact-DRGM to learn more and start your journey to better health today. Azo, before we get into the weekend recap, my friend, just want to announce we are going to be up in Grand Forks, North Dakota for the Boston University Series. That is on October 25th and 26th. The 26th will be going live from Joe Black's Hockey Night in Scottsdale, Live in 5 pod. It'll be at Joe Black's, that live show like we did last year during the Minneapolis, Minnesota Gophers series with the Fighting Sioux at Joe Black's before the game. So that's going to be a 4 o'clock show, game at 6. So to get you in time in the gate at the Ralph. Nice and buzzed up. So to the students, to the good people of Grand Forks and everything in between, we will be live from Joe Black's Saturday, October 26th. Can't wait to get up there. Obviously, the Heat Daddy's going to be in the mix. Now, Azo, I know you're working through some different things on that front, my friend. You don't have to comment if you don't want to, but there might be a wedding involved, so we'll see. I think you're like a game time decision, maybe.
It's going to be game time decision, but yeah, obviously we're hoping we're going to be there. Either way, it's going to work out fine. But all I do know is, Jordo, the last time we did it last year with the heater, I thought it was a huge success. I haven't seen your guys' other live shows, but It was a great time for everyone involved, everyone that was there. So if you are in Grand Forks and you got nothing to do on Saturday, October 26th, you might as well head Joe Black's because it was a hell of a time last time. And it's going to be a hell of a series, too. BU coming to town. I know the boys. I didn't watch any of this game against Providence, Jordan, but it looked like and it sounded like they kind of found their game. They played well, so hopefully that's something to build on for them.
Yeah, and also I wanted to ask you, like, in terms of what are we going to be walking into Joe Black's? Like last year, obviously we had the series against Minnesota. It was the first time the Gophers have been in Grand Forks in a while. I mean, everyone and their mother in terms of a UND alumni was there. So we were able to pack that bitch to like 300, 400 odd people. Now, is this going to be something where maybe more students show out this time because it is, before the game, not necessarily a big rivalry weekend, but it is BU. There will be some juice. It's a fall day, night, so it's not too cold. It's not -40. Like, talk to me on that front. Like, what can we expect? Can we get a good amount of bodies in there, you think? I mean, I think right?
I think it's going to be a great, depending on, I still think, even if there is a football game, I guess I haven't even looked into that, but even if there is, I think people will be showing up to Joe Black's, and it's going to be more students, I think, this time, less alumni coming to town. But what I do know is in Grand Forks, when a team like BU comes to town, it almost is as big as like Minnesota coming to town. I know it's not that extent, but BU doesn't come to town very often, and everyone knows college hockey in Grand Forks, and everyone knows BU. So I think it's going to have, it's going to have a lot of juice. It's probably the biggest series in Grand Forks this year outside of, those Denver and Duluth matchups in St. Cloud. But it's going to be a hell of a time. I think we're going to see more students, which will be probably better for what we're kicking out there. I know last time was a lot of alumni and older people, which they're beauties in their own right. But I think some of our jokes and some of the talking points are more so geared at some of the younger crowd, 25 to 20 years old. But the older folks still had a great time, I think. Everyone in that building had a good time that day.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We were able to get Tony Herkus last time. Still working on maybe getting a guest for that show. But yeah, like I said, I think, and like you said, more students this time, a little bit more rowdy. I cannot wait to see that place buzz, and I can't wait to get up to Grand Forks. So, folks, if you're in the greater Grand Forks area, you're coming in for the weekend, please come to Joe Black's. Again, it's a free show. It doesn't cost you anything. We like to kick off the year for this. Obviously, later on in the year was Hockey Night Scottsdale. We do ticketed events. But for this one, for the good people of Grand Forks, Azo, this is a free event. Come get drunk. Hang out with the fellas. It'll be a 70-minute show. We'll do some crazy stuff. We'll have some flip cup games going, maybe a little beer pong, maybe some, I don't know. We'll figure it out in terms of chug-offs between both sides, a BU fan, a North Dakota fan. So it's going to be a hell of a time. Can't wait to get up there, fella, watch the boys play. And like you said, before we get to the weekend recap, I mean, I didn't watch any of the game, but the Hall of Fame game looked pretty cool. Seems like there was a decent amount of alumni up there. Unfortunately, we weren't able to make it, but it just seemed like the boys kind of got on track. I mean, for blowing the first one in terms of Augustana right down your leg, shitting down your leg, it seemed like this one was a lot better in terms of, playing with the pace of play, more of a North Dakota mindset. Seemed like they were aggressive from the people I talked to. And a lot of those freshmen kind of got, the party started, if you will, over there at the Ralph.
Yeah, they did. That's what they needed to. But yeah, I think that's a huge win. Providence, I know, always has a good team. I don't know how good they'll be this year. I think they had a good start, a good weekend before they came to Grand Forks. So the fact that the boys were able to put it together, which I actually expected them to do, so that was no surprise. But that does give me some hope coming in. I mean, they're going to Mankato this weekend, which isn't going to be easy, and then they got BU. So yeah, like Malty said when he was on, they want to hit the ground running, and I think you put that Augustana game in the background. It was a fucking exhibition. It's not even on the record. So
yep.
You're 1-0, and you can't win them all if you don't win the first one, and they did.
Yeah, no, and obviously this weekend they are going into the chin of Mankato. Going to go play the Mavericks down there on the southwestern side of Minnesota. Troy Ward, obviously friend of the show over here, Luke Strand. We've mentioned his name. Those guys, they ran a great program in Mankato, so that should be a good test. Azo, let's get to your weekend, though, man. You were in Rifle, Colorado, obviously with no service. You posted that one picture that I saw that was pretty badass. It was just you and Ty, hanging off a cliff, it looked like, with a fucking assault rifle, like you're Chris Kyle about to take out the Taliban. So talk to me through that. Was that just one of the vantage points you stopped and hung out at, or was that a place you were frequenting over the weekend? And how many steps do you think you were at per day? So I'm just going to give the floor to you, whatever you want to touch on, but it looked pretty badass, man.
Yeah, it is. It's a badass trip, Jordo. And, anyone who likes a challenge, like, you're not going on a vacation. You're not going to relax. When you go hunting elk, especially the way we do it, now you can pay $20,000 and go shoot one in a field out of your truck. Good for you. That's not the way we do it. You're going in there to work. You got. I think I had my watch going the whole time throughout we hunted 4 days. I hiked 50 miles throughout the 4 days. I don't know how many. I think like it was close to like 30,000 steps a day. And you got a 50-pound backpack on with your rifle back there, and you got snacks and shit. But basically, we're hunting this private ranch. This guy owns. You can't own the mountains, but you own the roads and stuff underneath the mountains and the land underneath the mountains. So if you own that land right below the mountain, you kind of own the mountain too. Now it is public. If someone was to jump out of a helicopter and land on the mountain, they're on public land because it's a mountain, but there's no access to it. So we're kind of the only ones out there hunting, and we've got there's probably about 7 miles of mountain land, and you hunt the dry, so you hunt the shaded side. So the elk, they sit and they kind of sleep during the day. And they come out they eat all night. So then they walk up into the mountain in the morning. So you hunt in the morning, try to catch them walking up. And then you hunt at night, trying to catch them walking down, getting out of their bed and walking around the mountain. And that picture you saw, Jordan, was only one of the vantage points. So in order to get a view at the mountain, you do have to hike, back into these valleys where there isn't roads, and you have to hike up to the mountain to a good vantage point where you can get a shot. Now, it's very difficult to get a shot when the elk are moving. When you're looking at the mountain, Jordan, it looks like, okay, like everything's flat. I could easily see this. But when you actually walk into the mountain and you're walking up the mountain and through the trees and stuff, you realize how many ravines and stuff that you wouldn't be able to see unless you were standing there. Like if you're looking at the side of the mountain, you'd never know it was there. So it's very hard to locate these elk. And if you want to be successful during these hunts, it is kind of the harder you work, the more. It's just like anything else in life. The more you put in, the more you're going to get out. So that's why I think most people aren't successful, because most hunters, they just want to go, post their gun up somewhere, have 4 beers while they're doing it, and then they don't see anything. They go back to camp and they crush 24 beers and go to bed, So that is also a way to do it. You're probably just not going to shoot anything if you do that. But we definitely worked our bags off. Like I said, I'm almost like injured right now because of how much I just walked, and climbing these mountains is no easy feat. Like you're getting so tired at sometimes, Jordo, where, I had to shit in the woods because I was so bagged. I'm like, when you work so hard and you're like, holy shit, now I have like diarrhea because I've been fucking bagging myself so hard. But it was funny so we actually shot one. And when you go elk hunting, like not everyone's going to get one. If your group shoots one elk, it's considered successful, right? So me, my dad, and Brian, the other guy we go with, my brother was feeling sick the first day. So he's like, yeah, I can't hike. Like I'll be done the rest of the trip. So I'm just going to hunt like the field right in front of our shack and just see if something pops out. Well, me and my dad and Brian end up hiking like 7 miles back in the mountain. We get off the mountain, basically stared at a Bob Ross painting. That's what I was saying the whole time, because we saw fucking nothing. We hiked all that way. I think it was 16 miles that day. We didn't see a fucking thing. And we're walking off like, God damn it, a bunch of fucking idiots, didn't see anything. Come back, get back to the shack. Ty's in there. He's like, yeah, I actually shot one. So we're like, no fucking way. This guy who walks half a mile maybe all day sees an elk and shoots one by himself, which is pretty NailGun by Ty. Okay, you don't realize how hard it is. You got your gun. You got to find the elk on your scope. You got to know how far away the elk is, and we're shooting pretty far, Jordan. Like these we go to the rifle range, and we're shooting targets at 800 yards, and we'll say like, yep, that one's 800 yards. And then other people at the rifle range are like looking over like, shut the fuck up. That's not 800 yards. Your gun doesn't go that far. Because you just don't understand. You can't buy this gun at Shields off the rack, you know, like which most people are going in, like they're going to Shields or Cabela's or Bass Pro Shop, and they're just like, hey, give me the biggest rifle you got, which is cool. It's a big rifle, but it's nowhere near these rifles that we have. So it does make it a little easier, but just the fact, all the factors that go into it, wind, if you see them, they're always moving. So if they move behind a tree, you can't shoot. So you got to be ready really quick. But we were fortunate to get that. And then the next day we found where it was, and it's really hard to track down where the elk is going to be on the mountain after you shoot one, because you walk into the mountain and you lose where you're at. You're like, where the hell are we? So we end up finding it. It was a pretty surreal moment. I've never walked up to an elk, you know, that was down on the mountain. When you walk up to it, it's like the size of a cow. It's massive. You can't move it. So you do have to, you know, you have to debone it and cut all the meat off on the side of the mountain. And then you got to walk, each guy walks down. I think we got 200 pounds of meat. So we, you know, put 50 pounds of meat in your backpack, and then you got to hike all the way down the mountain. So it's a bagger. And then if you are to get a shot at a second one, you've already done this before. So you're like, when you see a second one, you got this in your mind. You're like, oh, fuck, do I really want to do this again? Because it's an absolute bagger, you know, like you're like thinking like, I don't really want to do it because we're going to have to fucking hike this mountain and pack it out. And cutting up these elk, obviously it's kind of a majestic animal. Like you get a weird feeling, at least I do, when you walk up to the animal. You're like, fuck, you feel bad. Like, this thing is sick, and it's just, you know, it's dead now. But it kind of makes you respect the animal, I would say, more in a weird way, because you're like, you know, now we're going to eat this, and we're actually going to put it to use. You know, it's going to fuel our bodies, so you don't have to feel too bad. But when you're skinning it and cutting it up, it really makes you kind of just appreciate the animal more than you would just seeing it on the side of the road, you know, like, oh, whatever, fucking elk right there. But when you cut it up, you gain a little respect for it. But it's a trip I would suggest to anyone that's willing to, you know, put in the work and willing to set aside time in their lives to go somewhere and not just relax and just, you know, it's a battle, it's a challenge, and you got to be ready for that. And if you're not, you might as well not go. But it was an unbelievable trip, and it's one of the worst things not having service, Jordo, but it's also one of the best things, because your phone's just sitting in the shack all day. You're not even looking at it. You're not even thinking about it. It's you don't get that too often anymore. So that was refreshing for sure.
And when Ty Ausmus takes down that elk, and he's the only hunter in that area, is he kind of just like when you're going to pick it up the next day, is he kind of just like, yeah, well, this is kind of where I shot it along that ridge or that mountain, and then you kind of put together a plot of like, okay, we'll kind of backtrack over there, walk around a little bit, see where this thing ultimately kind of went down. And did he know that he dropped it right away? Yeah,
so he actually shot twice, and you're so far away that when you shoot, the elk doesn't move because it doesn't really know where it's just like a. And the elk doesn't know what that is. It's just like, it doesn't even know something was shot at him. So he missed the first shot. He got it on the second shot, and it just like he saw it walking away kind of woozy, and then it laid down. So he kind of thought it was right in that area. And what we did was we saw where he shot from, and we threw a bunch of orange where he shot from. And then we're like, okay, like it's straight across from this. So when we're climbing the mountain, we can look across and see on the other side of the mountain where he shot from, and we know it should be straight across from that. So you kind of walk that path. And as weird as it is, you know, hunting too is like, how many things do you do in life, Jordo, where you're using all five senses? You know, like all of them at the same, like you're smelling, you're trying to smell shit, you're using your eyes, you're listening, you're feeling, you know, it's everything, which is the cool part, because you're not like, when you're tracking it, you can actually smell it when you get close. Like you can smell the scent of the elk. And even when you're looking for tracks, like, I mean, my dad's a big hunter. He's picking, he sees a spot where an elk pissed or an animal pissed, and he's like grabbing the dirt and smelling it. He's like, oh yeah, that's elk piss. It's like, okay, like we know we got one here. So, yeah, that was just one of the, I think that's one of the best parts. Like I was just thinking about it. You don't do too many things in your life where you're just using all 5 senses and at the same time to like accomplish something. So that part of it is really cool.
Yeah, the old Patches O'Houlihan. Why do you drink urine? Because it's sterile and I like the taste. But a guy like Ty, so you drop that thing and then, okay, you just kind of like, you're probably like a little anxious to know where it is. Like you got to sleep on it. You got to be like, oh, fuck, like I hope it's down. At the same time, are you ever worried as a hunter, like the next day when you go out there, like a bear snagged it or a mountain lion took it? Is that something for sure, right? Like they could be half chewed off the bone at that point.
Yeah. I mean, you're wondering about it. You like when you're walking around these mountains, you realize how much land there is. So you're just like, okay, like the odds of an animal finding this aren't like they'd find it in 5 days or whatever because but right away after it doesn't start like smelling like a dead animal, like till probably 2-3 days, which is when they would find it. But you are a little worried about that. And I don't think Ty slept that night because like you just want to know like if it's there or if it's gone. And these things, Ty actually shot an elk last year, Jordo, and they ended up cutting it up and they opened it up, and this thing had a full fucking broadhead in it, like which is like, you know, razor blades from an archery hunt. Someone shot an arrow inside this elk, and when my brother shot it and they skinned it up and everything, there was no hole in the side of the elk. This broadhead was just, it had healed over, and this broadhead was just in the middle of its body. And he was just walking around the woods like nothing. Like these animals are insane. Like they can heal themselves so quickly. So like when you do shoot one, there isn't much blood because like they don't bleed much.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then you obviously, are you doing the work when you're, you know, kind of skinning them and cutting up the meat? Are you involved in that process, or is it just the older fellas?
Yeah, so it's, you know, you do want to learn and teach yourself how to do it. So we did. I did actually end up taking the meat off one of its hind legs, and I did that part. But when you're up there, you kind of like, it is eerie, obviously, cutting up an animal because it was still a little warm, and you're like, this is kind of fucked. You know, you're grabbing fucking muscles and stuff, and so I cut up a leg and Ty cut up a leg, but you know, my dad didn't want to do it because when you're doing it, you kind of just want to get the hell out of there. You're like, I want this. I don't want to be sitting up here for 2.5-3 hours if me and Ty were to do it. So my dad, he's shot 10 elk before, so he knows what he's doing. He did most of it. He did make us cut up the legs just to learn, but he's like, I'm not having you guys do this whole thing. I don't want to sit up here for 3 hours watching you guys hack it up, you know? So
the old hacksaw Jim Duggins. Yeah, that's cool. So obviously you're able to transport the meat back. That's a fucking banger too, because you drove out there and you had to drive. Did Ty drive back with you at least?
Yeah, he did.
That's
not
bad.
Yeah, it was a long trip. I don't like. I've never been that tired before in my life, honestly. It felt like I just got back from San Jose development camp, skating 6 hours a day. You know, my hips are fucked right now. Almost feel injured. So yeah, I'll probably lay off the lunges for a couple weeks here, but get back after it probably in November.
Yeah. See you on the other side of Halloween. But yeah, man, that sounds like just a lifetime trip. Like I even mentioned to Fuzzy Schmaltz, my dad, about doing something like that after, you know, you guys were kind of talking about that. So that's cool, man. I'm glad you were able to do that. Elk burgers at Ozzo's for the next at least month, I would think. So getting some nice elk. But Ozzo, my weekend over here, nothing crazy. Just kind of chilled around. Actually went into Hermosa Beach Sunday, Monday, spent Columbus Day there, played some tennis, had a couple meetings in terms of some different stuff. But one thing I wanted to get into, it's kind of been a hot topic in and around the podcast world. And there's been, you know, some ladies going on from the WNBA in terms of their season just ending. And they've been, you know, going on pods just like every athlete does. And one of the hot things out there right now is, you know, is on Cam Newton's podcast was fly-ins. You know how guys, we've always talked about, you put a girl on a professional tryout, you fly her in for the weekend, you see how it goes. It happens. That's the real world, the real life of dating in 2024. That's how people get to know each other, especially if you meet them online. You want to get to know them a little better to say maybe they're not a psychopath. Maybe they are. Oh my God, it's been 2 hours in. I can't stand this person. Now I'm on the old American app trying to get her on an earlier flight, maybe even bumping it up a day. But one of the things out of the WNBA was fly-ins. And well, the question was, do they do it? And I forget who it was from the WNBA. I don't know if it was Angel Reese or one of those ladies was like, yeah, this is a part of it. We do it too. So I wanted to ask you, Azo, as a dude. Now, if you're a guy and, just hypothetically speaking, you're in a great relationship now, you're about to get married, but hypothetically speaking, if you were a dude, would you want to get flown out by a chick? And if you did, what would be some of those things that would have to meet your criteria? Obviously, you're not going in a middle seat. She's got to pick you up from the airport, maybe get you an Uber. Does that Uber have to be an Uber Black, or could it be a Comfort or an X? Do you get a daily per diem pack, like, maybe on the male side, if you have a female coming in and I'm playing a game, hey, baby, here's $100 a day. You can go get you some to eat. Or, even taking a step further, do you want access to the WAGs room? I always call it the lion's den where the wives and girlfriends hang out. Now it's on the other side. It's the dudes room. So it'd be the DAGs room, the dudes and girlfriends room. Like, would you want that? Or, talk to me like what would you feel comfortable as a male? I know the dynamic is the same, but at the same time, it feels different.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for me, unfortunately, I have a little bit of toxic masculinity in me where I would feel a little guilty, taking a free flight from a girl and kind of getting shown around on a full, an official visit and getting everything paid for. I would feel a little feminine, I would say. So my pride would take a hit. I don't know if I'd love that, but let's be honest. I think if it's a WNBA player, and they're playing for a WNBA team, which is pretty nasty, I think I'd take the deal. Be a hell of a time. Maybe you end up liking the girl. Who wouldn't want to have a wife or future wife, maybe, who is a WNBA player? Your kid's going to be a first rounder. She's probably a breeder. So you got to think about that. But yeah, once I get there, Jordo, I am probably hoping I get picked up by her. If not, I do want her to get the Uber. Maybe line up the Uber for me. I don't want to take care of that part. And then once I get there, I'm thinking about what I want to do. When she's at practice, I want a few recommendations, like, hey, like, I know you got morning shoot around. Right. So, where can I get, can I get a massage somewhere? Can I get, some good food? What should I do here? Some recommendations. Maybe you have some inns in the city where I could, maybe go sauna or work out for free. Get a little bit of that. And then I do definitely want access to that WAG room, or what would it be?
So it'd be the
Hab room, husband and boyfriend.
Yeah, husband and boyfriend, or husband and dude. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
Room?
I want to be in that room for sure. I want to be near the locker room. I want good seats for the game that night. I definitely want to come in when they're playing too, because I don't want to be with her the whole time. I want some things to do, and I'll watch you play. That'd be sick. And I hope it's on a weekend, and then hopefully the girls win, and then we can all go out. I want to go out with the team. I want to see, the dynamic of the team. Is she liked by the team? Is she friends with? Do I like her friends? Do I like the boys or the girls? Sorry. Do I like the girls? And I think that'd be awesome. Get to go with the team, get a little bit of that. See what they got. I think it'd be an unbelievable trip.
It would be so funny too, in terms of if she had you at the game and you didn't have access to that HADS room and you're in the side piece section. You're like, well, what the fuck is this? I know I'm just getting flown in just to whack for a couple of nights, and I'm getting my ass back on a Southwest bird back to Albuquerque or wherever I'm going. I'm going back to Texarkana. You're flying me in because, we did meet on an SEC road trip back in the day when you were playing for LSU. It's just like, that would be so funny to like even go into that room and like talk to the dudes and be like, like, I'm thinking about knocking up my girl. It's like, oh, well, fuck, like, don't do it mid-season. And then all of a sudden, maybe, you do knock her up. Now she's sidelined on the bench for 4 or 5 months. I always thought that was such a funny dynamic. Like, what if the potential of knocking up a chick just on that trip. Like, then what? You put her out for the whole season? Like, dudes,
season-ending injury.
Right.
Yeah.
You go on you enter the IR with a middle body injury because you're about to give birth. I just always thought that was so funny. Like, you're just like chopping it up in the HADS room with all the other fellas. Like, maybe some fly-ins, maybe it's like a long distance boyfriend. Then you got like the all-in husband who's got like the jersey on, got her shoes, and maybe even a tattoo of her somewhere. It's like that concept to me is so funny being a dude, because obviously we've seen it our whole life on the other side of things now with the chicks. But I can't imagine like the gossip going around too, like that room with all the dudes. Like those you gotta feel some type of way though. Don't you a little bit have to feel a little weird if you're one of those guys? Like, come on,
for sure.
Are you like?
Oh, you're just sitting in that room, and you're like, yeah, there's Sabrina's boyfriend. She cheats on him all the time.
Yeah, like, and do those dudes do the playoff jackets like the girls do?
Oh, I think you have to.
Like with the name bar on the back.
If I'm in that room, I'm putting together those jackets and making the boys wear them all the time.
Like you're decking it out like Virgil Abloh, God rest his soul, made it. You know what I mean? Like, are you really?
I don't know if you're going. I mean, that'd be so funny though. To get a picture.
How like
Habs room with the jackets on.
Like Levi's that you can stitch all the patches on there. Like, are you doing that? Like with her number, what number kill you were for her? Like you were her 27th body, so you're on there. And then you have like a hyphenated last name because really she's married to you, but she doesn't use your name. It's like there's so many different dynamics of that. I think that's just so funny. Like, do chicks actually that play in the WNBA make playoff jackets for their dudes? And then how like the chicks in hockey, they'll all show up with like the leather pants. They'll be like sticking their ass out a little bit outside of say T-Mobile Arena in Vegas, and then it's just like showing the name and the number on the back. Like, how do dudes do that? Do they like just like they sit down and like all take a picture together? Like, how does a dude take a group photo of a playoff jacket? Is it just like you kind of turn around and point to it like a knockoff biker jacket?
Yeah. Like a knockoff biker jacket. You know what, Jordan? When I was playing in Colorado, I won't say the guy's name, but one of our players, he had a wife in the stands, and he got injured, and we went in for like the period in the intermission into the locker room, and she came running into the locker room like, is he okay? Is he okay? I might try that out. One of my girlfriend gets injured, and I'm running into the locker room in between at half, like, hey, is she gonna play? She good to go?
How's her ankle? She feeling all right? I got some tape in the car. She uses a specific tape. I know the Mueller stuff doesn't usually work, so we got the K tape in the car. I can go get it. I got the Lincoln out front. I'm going to go over to Car Valet.
No, she doesn't like your Normatec. She's got some at home. Here, I brought them. I got them in my backpack right here. Just give those to her.
Baby, do you need the Flexol? Sometimes you use it after we go round 3 in the bedroom. Like, do you need some Flexol? I know those hips are sore from last night. I was whacking you pretty good. That would be funny.
Oh, yeah. And then if you do go with a team, which I asked for, as the guy, do I have to buy the girls drinks, or like, are they buying me drinks? Like, am I just hopping on their tab?
Who's buying the bottles? Who's buying the bottles?
Because like if I'm coming in and you guys won on Saturday, I kind of want a table.
Yes. And like now at this point, like, how the dudes are usually sitting on the ledge of that table, just like looking at every chick in the club. Like, now is that reverse where those girls say the single girls are all sitting there waiting for the sparkler show? Are they like calling guys out from across the bar, like, you come here, and you're like, me? No way. Like, and then you go in there and like you try to like spit your game a little bit to the point where now you're able to, okay, yeah, you're cool enough to get a drink. You'll get the one tequila soda. Is that how it works? Like, it has to be funny.
You're just hanging out with your buddies you're hanging out with your buddies. You get called in by one of the girls, like, hey boys, sorry, I'm leaving you guys. I got called to the table.
You're leaving us for that leaf eater over there, that 6'4" power forward. That's the other funny thing is, it's like, how are you feeling if you're shorter than this girl too? And like, how does that dynamic work? Like, she's like kind of whacking you at that point. Like, she's kind of the alpha. Like, if you're like 5'10", 5'11", and she's 6'4", like, I wonder if NBA girls, like, the height has to match up. Like, are they clearly going for guys that are 6'6" and above? Like, you got to be wearing size 20 shoe to even hang out with me? Or is it like I could go for like a Kevin Hart like make and model, and I'm just gonna like toss you around the bed? Like, I don't know. Even just like hanging out in public, like that to me would be so funny. It's like, yeah, actually, I really like short guys, because there's got to be some of those chicks that like short guys too.
They have to. I think that's a thing for sure. And then also one thing that you don't really have on a men's team is a couple of them are probably dating each other, which doesn't really happen on a men's team. I think it happens on some of these women's teams.
Yep.
They happen to be, I think, gay more often than men. I think men athletes.
Yes.
So yeah, it'd be an interesting dynamic. I think it'd be all time.
It would be all time, and it would be cool, like, if your chick was, like, legitimately a center and you were, like, a short king. Like, what if you had, like, a wedding picture, like an engagement picture, like we were talking about the other week, of her just, like, holding you up to dunk, you know?
Yeah, or like you're in her arms and she's just holding you.
Yeah. I just think, like, that dude drama would be so funny, too. Like, oh, my God, Stacy just gets fucked on the road, and this guy's in town. Like, does he really think she likes him? I think that would just be so funny. So I wanted to ask you that. That was a good bit, but Azo, do you have the Brochan ad read? We're going to get into a little bit of NFL Week 7 talk, brought to you by Brochan.
All right. Before we get into NFL Week 7, this is obviously brought to you by Brochan Sunscreen. Are you tired of your girl hassling you about wearing sunscreen on the golf course? We were, and that's why we created Brochan and simplified the process by conveniently packaging the sunscreen into single-use packets sold on Amazon. Remember, boys, always wear protection. And wear protection, especially if you're getting called in to an official visit by a WNBA player. You do not want to sideline her for the rest of the year.
No. Wear protection, wear sunscreen. Again, go check out those guys. Single-use packets for sunscreen, obviously in the AZ area, the Southern Belt, the Southern Tour down here. Sunscreen still very much in play. Getting out of that season a little bit up north, Azo. But yeah, go check those guys out. Great idea, great concept. And again, single-use packets, so you don't have to carry around that big bottle in your golf bag or just even with you. It's not like we're using purses over here and in terms of, those satchel bags or whatever. But go to Brochan, go check it out. Some good stuff there. Single-use packets. Azo, let's get over to NFL Week 7. At the top, obviously, Davante Adams being inserted into the New York Jets roster, reuniting with my quarterback. Well, both those guys in Green Bay, quarterback, wide receiver combo. Davante Adams and Aaron DMT Rodgers. So these guys are going to try to recreate some magic like it's 2017, 2018. Azo, what do you make of the move? I mean, I think it was inevitable that Davante Adams was going to get moved. It seemed like more of a possibility as the weeks dragged on, and he ends up going to a spot that obviously has a lot of familiarity with and has had previous success. So the Jets obviously struggling a little bit, but this should help them in terms of, spicing up that offense per se.
Oh, 100%. One thing in football, Jordo, is especially with wide receivers and quarterbacks, is you do have to have chemistry, and sometimes it takes a while to build up that chemistry, which is what A-Rod is probably dealing with Garrett Wilson right now. But he's already got that chemistry with Davante. I think it's a great play for the Jets. They have to go all in. This is kind of the time for them in terms of the players they have and what they've done with some of their picks and everything like that. So they do have to go all in. I think they have a good team. I'm pumped for Davante Adams. I love that guy. I'm happy he's on a contender now and gets to try to win some games instead of being on the Las Vegas Raiders, who their season's probably over. But again, I don't know. Like, how does this go down in the locker room with Garrett Wilson? He's a wide receiver 1, really, really skilled. Now Davante Adams comes in. You ain't wide receiver 1 anymore. How does that go over with these guys? Because these guys have egos, Jordan.
Yep.
And you can't actually be a good receiver without an ego. So I'm curious to see how that works out.
I always think it's funny, too, when the quarterback is in front of the media and he's always saying, like, well, I'm just going to pass to the open receiver. Well, dude, every time that ball, you touch it from your centerman when it's hiked, you have just a subconscious feeling of where you want the rock to go. And especially if it's one of your buddies and you've had success for damn near a decade with in Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers, that comfortability, like, that is your first check down. It's like, okay, where's DA at? And then it's Wilson. I think that's how it's going to be. Now, again, you obviously as a good quarterback and an elite quarterback, a top 3 quarterback of all time as far as I'm concerned, and Aaron Rodgers will find the open man. But I think, Azo, as you know, you have favorite targets. It's like playing with a line mate in hockey that you love playing with. All those guys usually are looking for that guy first, and it's like, well, okay, I guess I got to pass the other guy on the line. Or maybe, my second look or third look is now the defenseman. I know all forwards in hockey would always be like cycling the puck down low, and they look up and see who the defenseman at the top of the key was. In terms of at the blue line, they'd be like, oh, God, that's amen corner over there. I can't give the puck to this guy because I know I'm going to be back checking. So it's not a case with, 2 great receivers, but I do think Aaron Rodgers, without saying it, or even if he does say it, Davante Adams is now going to become his number 1 target, at least to get the rock to. Now, it's on Davante Adams to run good routes, get open, but he's going to be looking for that first check down. He will, with a guy that he is genuinely good friends off the field with and has had that chemistry on the field with.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I always wonder how that's going to go over, because you're right. You're 100% right when you say you're subconsciously thinking about where you want to throw it. And I played quarterback in high school, and before the snap was even thrown, we'd have 3 wide receivers going out for routes. I fucking knew who I was throwing to before the ball was snapped.
Yes.
And this is kind of the case. So, yeah, hopefully Garrett Wilson can handle it. But I don't know. I always love thinking about the locker room and what's going on inside the locker room when something like this goes down.
Yeah.
But I can imagine you get a guy like Davante Adams coming in, though. He's enough of a legend where if you're Garrett Wilson, you're like, I probably just got to sit back on this one for a year or 2.
Yeah, 100%. See how it plays out. And again, still do your best to prove your worth as well. Azo, my locks of the week. I am actually going to Kansas City this weekend to watch a game at KC Live. It's not in Kansas City, the game, which is hilarious, but it's for Jägermeister, missing curfew. Some of those guys over there with DraftKings. So we're going to KC Live right into the jaw, right around Arrowhead Stadium, to watch a game basically at a bar and just sling Jaeger, hang out, get drunk with the good people of Kansas City. So my locks this week are Kansas City money line. They're going to be plus 1.5, at least right now, in San Francisco. So I'm going to take Patty Mahomes to stay hot. Those guys, even when they don't have their A game, the B game works. Sometimes the C game even gets it done. I just think I looked for them to stay hot. Obviously, they haven't been handed their first loss yet this season. They just seem like a well-oiled machine. And one guy, I guess, that didn't want to go there, surprisingly, was a guy we just talked about in Davante Adams. So I got the Chiefs money line, and then I got the Ravens, who skated away with one last week. I got them -3 and a hook at Tampa Bay. I just think Lamar Jackson, obviously a big fan over here of him. -3 and a hook. That should be a good tilt. What do you got on your slate for Azo's locks of the week?
I'm gonna stick to my guns like I did last week, and I'm gonna take the Packers again, -2.5 at home against the Houston Texans. Hell of a matchup, probably the matchup of the week, I'd say.
Yep.
But I do think the Pack, Jordan Love, are rolling right now. I think they take Houston and Lambeau. Those Houston boys are used to 100-degree weather. It's going to be a little bit brisk up in Green Bay. I don't know if they're going to know what to hit them there. And then my second lock is going to be the Giants +3 at home. Danny Dimes taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, I think the Eagles are pretenders. I don't like them. I don't like their coach. I don't like their fans. Giants +3 at home. I love taking the home team as the dog.
Yes.
It typically is a good bet.
Yeah, you mentioned Jordan Love, and obviously that is my team that people know over here. But last week, 22 for 32, Azo. He had 4 titters, 1 interception, quarterback rating just under 120. He looks crispy, man. He looks really good coming back from that injury, and we'll see how he fares this week. But they absolutely took the screws to Arizona. I was kind of worried about that game. I stayed away from it, but I should have trusted you and went with them. And obviously this week, I think that game's going to be a good tilt. I just think coming into Lambeau is just such a different feel. You're staying at the Kohler Hotel, which has just been put in there probably, I would say, 7 years ago. It's a nice hotel. I mean, before that, you were like at the Best Western at like a 2 Diamond. But this place is pretty nice. But at the same time, it's just so much different than what those boys in H-Town are used to, baby. Like this ain't Mike Jones. This ain't Slim Thug. This ain't Paul Wall. This is like, little country.
Yeah.
Little Randy Hauser. Let me show you how country feels. It's like it's a little different, and especially those guys coming in for the first time. So we'll see how that goes. Ozzo, let's get over to, I wanted to ask you, have you watched any MLB playoffs? Like, the cool thing about this is I'm hoping that we can get an all New York final. That would be unbelievable. Obviously, the Yankees up 2 Cobb right now, and the Guardians and the Mets down 1-2 against the Dodgers. But I'm just thinking, like, how nasty that would be if it was a Subway Series in the World Series. That would be crazy. I mean, those tickets would be going for a pretty penny, fella, a penny that I don't have. But have you been watching it all in terms of just the MLB playoffs? I know Pete Alonso announced that he's going to host another home run derby after the season because that guy just loves home run derby. He's actually just going to do one at his New Jersey estate, just in his yard, and it's going to be for charity. The charity is actually just going to pay for his off-season travel. So I know Pete Alonso is going to do another home run derby. That's the only thing I've heard, but I haven't been watching a ton of ball. Since hockey's been on, man, it's kind of crazy to say. I haven't been watching a ton of ball. I know you were out for the last week, but I just wanted to pick your brain on if you've seen a little bit of the October baseball, fella.
I like watching October baseball, especially when it's for the pennant or the National League or American League, basically the semifinal of the playoffs. Yeah, I've been paying attention. I've watched quite a few of the games. The Yankees, I think, will skate their way to the World Series. Now, it's up in the air if the Mets or Dodgers will win, but when you look up and down those lineups, I think you have the 3 highest paid teams left, and the Guardians are just in there. So the Yankees, the Mets, and the Dodgers all pay like 5 times more than any other team in the MLB, so it's no surprise they're there. When you look up and down their lineup, they have just killers at every batting position. It's insane. So even if, the Yankees make the World Series, I think, for sure. And then even if it's the Dodgers or the Mets, either way, it's going to be probably one of the most watched World Series of all time, just because if it is New York versus New York, it's unbelievable. Or if it's the Dodgers, you got Mookie Betts and you got Shohei Ohtani and Max Muncy and Freddie Freeman. And, God, is Clayton Kershaw still playing? I guess I haven't even watched a game he's pitched. I don't know if he is.
I don't know.
But that would be an all-time series. It's going to be awesome. I don't know who's going to win, to be honest. They're all so close. It would be as much as I do like the Dodgers, Jordo, but I just think it would be so sick if the Mets and Yankees played. It'd be all time. And then if the Mets pulled it off, it'd be hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this roster for the Dodgers. I got Ohtani, Mookie Betts, this Hernandez guy. I know he's nasty. I mean, this game's going to be tonight. We're recording on Thursday. The Yankees are actually up 1-0 right now. I think they might actually sweep the Guardians. And I feel for the good people of Cleveland because you know how much I love that city. Shout out to the town hall that actually closed. I think their owner tried to kill a guy, but that's a story for another day. But I had that one wraparound shift earlier in the summer when I was at town hall till about 3 a.m, and then ended up playing a girl one-on-one late night, a game of tonsil hockey, and kind of made my way over to Pittsburgh. So, yeah, I love the mistake on the lake. I just think they don't have enough juice. That park also was sneaky cool. But speaking of good parks, I mean, Yankee Stadium is what it is. Unbelievable. It's iconic. Even the new one, I like the old one better. But then you got Shea Stadium, the new one, and Citi Field, which is pretty juicy. And then you got the old Dodger Stadium, which is just sick. So I think you can't go wrong either way. I mean, Ohtani's so fun to watch. Once the World Series hits, I'll be dialed into every game because it's just that good. You know, I mean, you're going to watch the final of a sport, right? I'm not that big of an asshole, but I was just curious to say, kind of pick your brain on that. And the one hat that I wish actually they wore in baseball is I have one of them. It was the old Spike Lee red Yankee hat. Man, that thing, for whatever reason, that red Yankee hat is just hard as hell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For even coming from a white boy from Verona, Wisconsin, hometown USA, you throw that thing on, people are like, damn, who is this guy? You know, what's he been up to? So, yeah, that series, we'll monitor both of them. We'll check back in next week. We're going to get over to some National Hockey League talk and what's going around the National and just in terms of news, different things. And I wanted to start at the top. I don't know if you saw it, but earlier in the week, there was a practice involving a little bit of a scuffle, but the reason why there was a dust-up between Rasmus Dahlin, who is the captain of the Buffalo Sabres, and Peyton Krebs, obviously a young forward there, number 19 for the Buffalo Sabres, was just a pretty idiotic play in my eyes, how it developed. Now, Rasmus Dahlin obviously was named captain earlier in the year, right around training camp time, And they were in practice. Buffalo's been struggling. I'm sure emotions are high. Different things boil over. And to my knowledge, these guys are actually buddies. But why, if you're Rasmus Dahlin and you're the captain of the Buffalo Sabres, why are you taking a run at your own guy in the middle of the ice on a 3-on-2 drill where his head is turned and he doesn't see you coming and you finish low with a hip check? To me, that's chicken shit. To me, that's something you don't do. If you want to dust up your teammate, you do it along the wall, and then maybe it leads to a physical altercation. Maybe it's in front of the net on a 2-on-2 battle drill. But why are you taking a guy's knees out at the hip level with a hip check if you're the captain of that team? And ultimately, you say what you want. You're trying to injure him. You really are. What else are you doing? That's just so stupid to me.
Yeah. I don't love commenting on these types of things because obviously you don't know what happened before. You don't know what provoked it, why he did it. And, just from my experience, I saw Drake Caggiula take off the head of Keaton Thompson in practice because someone else hit him and Caggiula thought it was Tomer who hit him and he took his head off. And we ended practice, and that shit happens. So I don't know what went on, if Krebs, if he pissed off Dahlin earlier in the skate, tried to injure him or do something. But even that being said, Jordo, you're talking about the captain of the team. Right. And how many games you got left? You got like 70-some games left, like a high number of 70 games left. Early in the season, you're the captain. You're supposed to be the rock of the team. You're supposed to be the leader. You're supposed to do what's right for the team at all times, even if you are pissed off in practice. And a hip check to the knees, like lower than the belt in practice, that seems a little ridiculous. It's insane, actually, because it's one thing to go dummy a guy like Cage did. Like Cage just fucking dummied Tomer, right? And it was like, okay, he wasn't trying to blow his knee out or anything. He just hammered him, which I can understand, but if you're going low on a guy, it's a little like, did this guy bang his girlfriend or his wife or sister or something? Like, is there something more there that he's actually pissed off because he's the captain of the team? You're probably not supposed to be doing this stuff unless it's like, even if you did that, I don't know. It just seems insane that he would do that.
Yeah, and I just think you make a good point. You don't know what happened before that. There was a altercation earlier in practice. They're pissed off. Things lead to, boil over to a point where emotions kind of get the best of you. You make a bonehead play. Like, I get it. We both have played hockey. I just think I've seen plays along the wall. I've seen things in front of the net in practice. I've seen guys even just jump a guy in practice. To me, going below the belt, especially on a vulnerable player, not looking necessarily up ice and finishing in and around his knee to one of your younger, pretty good skilled forwards, it just seems a little bit idiotic to me as the captain. Now, is there a way to maybe he could have done it differently? I think so. If it's along the wall and he's playing them hard and they're a battle drill, he gives them a cross check, maybe 3, and all of a sudden they shed their laundry and they start throwing. Or if he grabs them and tackles them in front of the net, no problem. I think that's being competitive. I think it is what it is. At that point, you can hash it out. I just didn't love the idea of physically and mentally thinking about lining a guy up in the neutral zone. Because Ozzo, like in those split seconds, you have time to think. Like in a Caggiula play, it's like, oh, fuck, it's just reactive. It's like, oh my God, what did I do? I just skate, bull rush this guy. This was like, okay, I'm going to set him up. I'm going to kind of angle him into a way, and he's going to skate himself there. Then I'm going to step up, and then I'm going to lay a hip check. Like there's a lot of thought that goes into that. Now, I know hockey's a fast game, and it happens quicker than you think. That's probably like a 4 or 5 second developing decision where, if a guy just like runs a guy through the wall, it's like, okay, that could have happened in, a split second. So I just thought it was a little bit of a chicken shit play, especially from your captain, but it seems like they're all good now. They hashed it out. They posted a little fucking Instagram later, like some little gay post to make sure the social
Did they really? I didn't see that.
Like we're best friends. Oh yeah, dude. I'm sure you are, man. A lot of people online, and when I tweeted, were comparing it to the Robert Bortuzzo, Zach Sanford saga in 2019 when the Blues, I was on the ice for that practice, and that was a way different situation. It was a battle drill. Those guys have been kind of going at each other for a couple reps. Bobo's seen enough. We were like 0-7 or 0-8 in the last 8 games. He kind of just grabbed them, shed his laundry, throw first, ask questions later, and the rest is history. This to me just seemed a lot more premeditated than that, not so much just emotions boiling over in practice. Now, again, we don't know what happened earlier in practice, but I just thought there's better ways to handle it, and especially as a captain. To me, that's a little bit immature. So we can move on, Azo. I wanted to ask you one question involving the National Hockey League. Obviously, Stan Bowman got reinstated alongside this guy earlier in July in terms of joining back in the National Hockey League. Stan Bowman found his way to Edmonton, and this guy continues to sit on the sidelines. But as we know, the coaching carousel in the NHL so very well, there's going to be new coaching changes. There'll be new people coming into the league, out of the league, probably by American Thanksgiving at least before the new year. So I beg the question, we talked about it when he got reinstated earlier in July, was Joel Quenneville. Will Coach Q be back in the mix, you think, before the new year? Do you think this is a guy that gets an opportunity to come back in the league? I mean, if Bowman's back, you got to figure it's only a matter of time before one of these teams like LA or, even Pittsburgh, throw them in there, throw some of these teams into that mix of maybe Coach Q can step in and help them out.
I think he can help out any team. I think he's a great coach. Obviously, there's things around him that people might not like. But, yeah, the fact that Mike Babcock got another chance, Jordo, how do you not give Joel Quenneville another chance? Right. I know the situation around that was a little more serious and a little more, people didn't like it. But at the same time, it's like he wasn't the one that did it. He wasn't, he was just around, it's like, you know what, the guy's done his time. And if we're going to forgive Babcock, you might as well give Coach Q another chance. And I think someone will take the chance because you're, like you said, the coaching carousel, how many good coaches are out there? And you like to have one that knows what he's doing. And obviously he's got a proven track record. I just don't see any reason for him not to get hired again. And he's not going to pull a Mike Babcock and start looking at phones, So
no,
I think it's less risky than hiring Babcock.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. And I think with Q is whether he knew it was going on or he didn't know what was going on, ultimately, it sucks to say, they were playing for the Stanley Cup. And that was his number one goal. He probably thought the brass higher above would have handled the situation. Now, if he knew that they were going to kind of sweep it under the rug, would he have reacted differently? I like to think so. I give the guy the benefit of the doubt. I think a lot of players and coaches and managers, they all like Coach Q. Joel Quenneville, I believe at the end of the day, is a good dude from all my accounts. Now, did he make a mistake? Could he have prevented something that, terribly happened to one of the younger players and prospects at the time in Chicago? Yeah, I think he says that. I think he's admitted that. He's gone on a different podcast. He's actually gone on the point to reach out to Kyle Beach and have conversations with him. I just think when you're in that moment and you think you were just the coach of the hockey team, there's a lot of different things that go into something as tragic as that. And at the time when you're chasing a cup, it sucks to say, probably his biggest focus was not on that. And you know what? I bet if he were to do it again, he would have spoke out, said something, handled it. But at the same time, hindsight is always 20/20. So I think he's learned, through just different, even his wife, I think different probably sessions with counselors, taking time off even and having that carpet ripped on, kind of under the rug or kind of just had that carpet pulled out. I think there's a lot of different things you can, figure out about yourself. Time gives you a little bit of a different perspective. And I think Coach Q, is chomping at the bit to get back in the NHL and coach. And I think if Stan Bowman, Ozzy, at the end of the day, if he's in the league, well, I think there's a place for Coach Q because not only is he a hell of a hockey coach, he just wins, baby.
Yeah, and that's what they're in the business of doing, is winning hockey games. So, yeah, I think someone, people forget it's a business and you need to hire the best chance you have at winning because that ultimately is the goal of the business. And if you can do that, you got to do it. And that's why I think we will see him back at some point. I don't know when it's going to be, but I don't think we've seen the last of him. That's for sure.
Yeah, and also obviously last night, we're going to shift gears a little bit to the current state of the National. Over in Pittsburgh, they were playing the Buffalo Sabres. Geno Malkin, 500 tucks. Sid assisted on that goal. Obviously, going back to Sid's 500th goal, Geno was the only assist on that goal. So pretty cool. Sid also hit 1,600 points. Man, you just got to think, if Sid didn't miss all that time with the concussion issues, like he would probably be pretty close, I would say, to 2,000 points right now.
Yeah, or the lockout, or the COVID year. Yeah, I mean, what a player. And he's not even fucking slowing down like Geno is slowing down.
Yes.
Ovechkin slowing down, which, by the way, Ovechkin just got a 700th assist. He's got like 800 and some goals, just way more goals than assists. Hilarious.
Yep.
But, yeah, I mean, Sid's just something else. I just feel so bad for him in the state of the Penguins right now. There's no chance for them. No hope.
And Gino's kind of a sneaky heater. He's got like 11 points and through his first 4 games. Now, he's not skating, obviously, at vintage 71 car form, but good to see he's kind of producing. That team is in shambles. That was just hilarious. Sid was the 5th fastest player to get to 1,600 points. All the players were kind of in and around, I would say, like 1,100 to 1,300 games, something like that. And Gretzky, I was looking at the figure, it was like 1,600 points in 650 games. It's like, what the I think it was like 671 or something like that. I mean, don't quote me on that, but it was something in and around 650 to 670 games.
Which makes Lindy's our guest on the podcast today, which he thinks Bobby Orr's the best hockey player in the world. Hilarious take, by the way.
Yeah.
I love that. I can get behind that. But yeah, when you start talking Gretzky stats and you hear Lindy say Bobby Orr's the best hockey player ever, it's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, hilarious. And I wanted to just give a shout out to Ivan. He got sent down from Colorado to the jungle of the Colorado Eagles. So hopefully we'll see him up soon. That's a hilarious name, just Ivan. I mean, how drunk was his dad naming him? Ozzo, what do they need in Colorado, man? I mean, they need Big Val back. I think he'll be back mid-November. Hopefully off the piss, all good there. But it's like Colorado, man, they're struggling early. They were my sneaky Central Division champs, and right now, we're only 5 games in. It's not, time to hit the panic button. But those guys in Colorado, like Nate Dogg, fella, I heard all summer about your big summer. You were in Vail. We talked to Spicy Tuna O'Brien, how crazy this guy was going. He looked faster. He looked meaner. He looked stronger. I mean, I know one guy can't carry the load here, but it's like, ooh, these guys, they need something. They need a spark. They need the big Russian back.
They do. They need him badly. And, yeah, I don't know, 0-4, certainly not panic button yet with 82 games. But at the same time, you're thinking, like, fuck, that ain't a great start. I mean, that ain't good. Those aren't overtime losses either. They're just straight-up losses, which – if you look at the end of the year, Jordo, there's not too many teams who actually finished with like an under 500 record. So you got to be close to like, boys, we got to get going here, or else we're kind of screwed. Because you lose a couple more, I mean, you're like, now it's time to almost panic. I don't know. But yeah, I was watching. They were 0-3, I think, before last night, Jordo, and I think they played last night or the night before, or whatever. And I was going to hammer them. I was going to bet, like, oh, there's no way the Avs lose this game. Their game got pushed back. I wanted to ask you about this, Jordo. Their game got pushed back because the other game on TNT went into overtime. So how much does that kind of sucks for the fans in the stands and the team. You got to wait to start the game, not because of anything that's going on here, but because the TV program isn't ready for you yet.
Well, why don't Turner Sports? They own like TBS. They have a couple different networks. Why don't they just throw them or pigeon toss the overtime game over one of those, or maybe just start the game? I know like TV business. I know show business. Okay, they probably have another program on one of these networks that they can't just buck off unless it's playoff time. But at the same time, it's like it's regular season hockey. Like just drop the puck. Like we're not.
Yeah, we'll start late.
Yeah, like why do we need to start late? Like, is it really gonna? I know we're trying to sell the game. I know we're trying to drive up contracts. I know we're trying to drive up revenue, more money in everyone's pocket. But at the same time, it's like, uncle, like this is game 3 or 4. Like, just start the match, boys. You know what I mean? I got to get home. Like, I got to get home and whack my wife. I got to, I want to smoke my bong. I want to have a couple of beers before 2 a.m. Like, I got a lot of shit to do. Like, I don't want to be working overtime. Like, let's drop the fucking puck.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. I saw it was delayed, and I'm like, why the hell would it be delayed in Colorado? There's no hurricane. There wasn't a huge avalanche there. What's going on? And then I saw the other TNT game in overtime, and I'm like, I can't believe they would postpone the start of the game. Like, just start the game, and then once the other one ends, just bring it in to wherever they're at. Probably be 5 minutes into the first. Yeah,
100%. So I like where your train of thought is. Ozzo, just a couple of quick more nuggets, little tidbits. The LA Kings are on an 18-day roadie to start the year. Not perfect there. a lot of wives probably just looking to get whacked in terms of the missing their guys. Probably the husbands are like, oh, Jesus, I'm counting down the days until I have to get back to the kids. The single guys are like, how many pairs of underwear do I need to bring on this trip? There's a lot of different things going on. That's a tough start of the year, man. 18-day roadie to start the year for the LA Kings. Like, you're missing Hermosa for that long. And lastly, Ozzo, I just want to give a shout out to Jackson Blake. Couple clicks for that young man. He scored his first goal in the National League with the Carolina Hurricanes. So obviously, Blaker, we wish you well, fella. He's actually up in the National League sooner than I had imagined. Did he go down to the jungle at all in Chicago, or has he started up the whole year? I haven't really looked.
For some reason, I thought he got sent down, and then he got pulled up right away. So there might have been an injury. I know he missed one of the I think he was black-aced for one of the games and then played that game he scored in. So, yeah, hopefully he can find his footing out there and become a regular in the lineup. I mean, he's a hell of a player. Obviously, he's got a tougher route just being a little smaller than the average player. But, fuck, he's shifty. He can move. He can play the game. He can think it. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully he finds his way there, Jardo. And I don't know if you saw about the Ottawa Senators. They got 3 UND defensemen on the opening lineup with Pinto up top, 4 Nodak guys on the Ottawa Senators. Tyler Clevin, Jacob Bernard-Docker, and Jake Sanderson, obviously, on the back end there. Pretty nailed stuff by the Ottawa Senators. Hopefully they can kind of make some noise this year. I mean, I feel like it's time.
Yes. Yeah, they got a new coach in there, Travis Green, obviously added veterans into the fold in the last few years. Claude Giroux, David Perron coming over there. They got their netminder locked up in terms of Linus Ullmark, so they have a good team on paper. They have all those young pieces, core pieces locked in. Parlay Pinto, he's looked good with that old Mike Stud mullet he's rocking. Sanderson, talked to Brady Tkachuk on missing curfew a couple weeks back and said he looks unbelievable in camp. So those guys, good for them. The old Nodak Sioux Senators. So good for them. Ozzo, let's go over to the one-hitters right now. My one-hitter for the captain this week, my friend, it is just a pretty simple question for you, my friend. I know you're pounding pavement a lot. I know you've been on the road, so maybe this stench will hit home with you more. But if you had to pick the smell between gasoline or a Sharpie to sit there and sniff, what are you picking?
That's a good question. I think I'm going Sharpie.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not as strong, but it is something that, it's like, it's that weird, you smell something and you don't like the smell of it, but you can't stop smelling it kind of thing. Same with gas, same with your own farts sometimes. It's like,
yep.
Or your fucking gloves when you pull them off as a youth hockey player and your hands smell like shit, but you can't stop smelling them in the car on the way home. You're like, fuck.
Stinky mitt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm going Sharpie there.
Yeah, like I said, I always do those custom butter golf cards and I write them out. I got the Sharpie out. And it's kind of like you almost kind of get high off it too. It's kind of nice. It's like it's a nice little buzz. There's something about that Sharpie smell that kind of kicks things off, and all of a sudden you stand up, you're a little lightheaded. I feel pretty good. I haven't even smoked anything, snorted anything, drank anything. I just kind of high off this Sharpie right now. But yeah, I would agree. I think both those stenches though, it's almost like Sex Panther cologne and Anchorman. You know what I mean? In terms of it's just so bad, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
It works 66% of the time. It works every time. The old Brian Fantana throws Sex Panther on and see what happens. Oh my God, is that pure gasoline? Oh, that's Sex Panther, baby. So yeah, that I agree with you. The people's term of the week, moving right along, is Shaquille O'Neal. And folks, what Shaquille O'Neal is, or who Shaquille O'Neal is, it actually goes back to friend of the show, Colton Sanderson. He played with a guy in the SJ, the Saskatchewan Junior League in Weyburn. If you want some Weyburn stories, just ask Uncle Rico. He's not shy to tell them. But anyways, the people's term of the week is Shaquille O'Neal. So who Shaquille O'Neal is the guy on the team that is always wheeling. He's a single guy. He's always wheeling around the bar. He's always got the Tinder fingers going. He's on all the apps. He's trying to get things done. He's going on coffee dates. He's doing dinner dates. He's doing even maybe just a nice stroll on the beach if you're living somewhere nice and warm. But he's the guy that's just always constantly wheeling. You're like, look at that guy over there. Look at Oz over there. Who does he think he is? Another girl on another date, buddy? Like, we have practice in 20 minutes. Holy fuck, that's Shaquille O'Neal over there getting it done at the coffee shop on campus. So Shaquille O'Neal, obviously Shaquille O'Neal is a spinoff of that, the famous basketball player we all know, Shaq, the big fella. But this instance is Shaquille O'Neal, the guy that's always wheeling around, maybe even thinks he's a bigger wheel than he is. And you just look at him, you're like, buddy, just calm down. Like, just relax. Like, who do you think you are, Shaquille O'Neal? So that is the People's Insider term of the week, Shaquille O'Neal. Azo, let's go over to NailGun of the week. I'll start us off. I have Corey the Worm Perry chucking them at the age of 40 years old at center ice at Rogers Place in Edmonton, getting the fans going. I mean, the guy's throwing down against Joel Farabee, who's like 20 years younger than him, just still getting it done, chucking bombs, throwing lefts, throwing rights.
Trying to beat him up, too.
Going. Yeah, he kind of beat the bag off him, too. I mean, he hit him with a couple of rights. He was begging from the left, getting into the box, getting the people of Edmonton going, getting all those fucking hillbillies going up there, the good people of Edmonton. So I just had Corey Perry chucking them still. What an absolute psycho. One to be playing hockey and one to be throwing down still at center ice. That is how you know he's cut from a different cloth fella.
I like that call, Jordo. I had one. We already talked about him. Jackson Blake was going to be my nail gun of the week. Just scores in his first NHL game. Hell of a game there, Blaker. Tip in goal too, kind of nails. Wasn't like a dangling fest. Got to the right area. So I had to shout him out. And then I had a little one. I had a controversial one. Now, usually a nail gun I think is cool. I'm not necessarily saying this guy is cool, but when I think of a nail gun, Jordan, I think of someone who doesn't give a fuck about anyone else and what they think. They're just going to be them, and that's what they're going to do. And there's this guy, this soccer player from Germany named Kevin Behrens. He just recently got suspended because he refused to sign a Pride jersey at their autograph signing. So he refuses to sign it, and I guess they got him on tape. He goes, "I'm not signing that gay shit." And that's a guy who just doesn't give a fuck about anyone. Yep. You know, he's doing what he wants, and that's kind of nail gun behavior. Now, I'm not saying I think this guy's cool for doing that. I would sign it. But, I mean, stick to your guns, do what you do you, and he certainly did him there. Got him suspended. Kind of dumbass play, but hilarious also.
Stick to your guns and be you at the end of the day, and that is kind of what nail guns do. They beat to their own drum, and they will beat the brakes off of anyone who kind of questions it. So, Azo, that was the pre-show over here at Live in 5. Again, we have an absolute character coming on next from the chin of Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. Lindy McLeod, former roommate at the U of Sask with Mike Babcock, a.k.a. Mike Wrenchcock, had a scholarship back in the day to play at Lake Superior State under Jeff Jackson, but ultimately got in some scandalous type criminal activity involving a horse. I'm not sure what that entails, but people, without further ado, let's send it over to Lindy McLeod. Azo with you. It's always tape to tape, fella. That was episode number 60 pre-show on the chin, fella. Now introducing from the Paris of the Prairies, folks, not the chin of Saskatchewan, rather the jaw. If I can read the card right, this young man hails from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, standing at a modest 5 feet 7 inches, tipping the scale at 188 pounds after a 2-4 of Pilsner. The Prairie Prince runs off nothing but canned tuna and stories about himself, how he should have made it. Folks, live from Moose Jaw, please welcome the man, the myth, the legend, Lindy McLeod, to the Live in 5 podcast. Lindy, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show. Happy to be here. Let me try to get on the other connection here. I apologize.
This is Sasky, though. This is perfect for the
All right.
Yeah, it is.
episode.
This is perfect for the episode.
Sorry, guys.
There you
All
are.
right. I'm on the hotspot. How is
Yeah,
this?
You sound better, yeah.
Okay.
You look good too.
Yeah, Sask tells a real bunch of idiots. They can't even get their shit together. So I apologize for the connection here. But anyway, thanks for having me on. What an intro, Swish 93.1. Thanks for that.
Yeah, no worries, brother. I mean, Lindy, listen, we appreciate you coming on. Obviously, you know, you are the pride of Moose Jaw, everything Moose Jaw here in terms of, you know, the correspondent, being boots on the ground up there. But I wanted to ask you, Lindy, like, what goes back into your playing days? Like, give the people a little bit of, you know, who you are, where you played growing up, and maybe just, you know, skating on the frozen ponds and Moose Jaw a little bit, and then kind of taking that into junior hockey and maybe even touch on, I guess, a little bit of your college roommate.
Well, sure. Yeah. You know, I grew up playing youth hockey in Moose Jaw all through, you know, southern Saskatchewan, Estevan, even up in Nipawin. But I ended up playing in the Saskatchewan Prairie Junior League, and it's now a defunct league. But the Prairie League was a rough and tumble league. I played up in Duck Lake for the Fight and Sturgeon, and you know, we had a pretty good squad. And I ended up going to U of Sask for a semester for a quick minute, and wouldn't you know it, my roommate was Mike Babcock. So that was an interesting experience. We didn't really get along all that well. One time I caught him sniffing my underwear drawer. I don't know what the hell that was about, but yeah, he's a very intense guy, and we just didn't see eye to eye really. He also didn't like that I would eat tuna morning, noon, and night. So we often got into some arguments about that. But I left after a semester and went back to the Prairie League and rejoined the Duck Lake as an overager.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, like, was the reason Babs was sniffing in your underwear drawer, were you keeping that tuna in a can maybe in those drawers, or was he just, because there was no cell phones back in the day, so he couldn't go through maybe your nudie collection or what you were doing in the summer of house and pilsners with the fellas at the lake? So was that maybe one of those tactics that, you know, he kind of honestly modernized as he went? It started with sniffing underwear, and now it went to checking, you know, young guys' phones when he became a coach.
Well, now that you mention it, Swish, I actually did keep some tuna in there. So maybe he was just hunting for my tuna to get rid of it. But
Right.
yeah, because it doesn't really make sense he would be sniffing my undies. I don't know what kind of dirt he'd be trying to get on me from that. But maybe he was trying to spread some rumors about my skid marks or whatever. But weird approach. But, you know, he's a weird guy.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I just, for sure. And just, you know, just kind of makes sense with what he is. But Lindy, like, you were an undersized player in the Prairie Leagues back in the day. Like, were you, describe your game to me in terms of, were you fighting? Were you hitting? Were you a skill guy? Or were you kind of one of those guys, just a lunch pail Saskatchewan guys like we see, you know, coming up through the junior ranks, and then some of these guys even end up, a lot of them, in the NHL?
Yeah, you know, I like to muck it up in the corners. I love going in front of the net. I'm a little guy. I'm 5'7", but I'm a little round. I'm a $188, so I carry some heft for my height. And I'd like to think I was decently skilled, but loved going in front of the net, tipping pucks, getting greasy in the corners. I wouldn't always. I'd fight if someone put me up to it, but you know, I took a lot of penalties. I think one year I had I was at 279 in like 47 games, something like that. So I often led the league in PIMS, but I put up some good scoring numbers too. Might have. You know, I was 21 as you know, I was one of the oldest guys in the league, but you know, I was set to go to Lake Superior State, play for Jeff Jackson. And it, you know, there was an incident and, you know, it never materialized.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sounds like it's for the best, though. Like a guy out of Saskatchewan with that many penalty minutes is probably best skipping out on the college route. You probably get suspended a little too many times. So after the college dream went away, I mean, what was your mindset going forward with your hockey career?
Well, you know, I'll briefly touch on the incident. You know, me and a teammate of mine, I won't disclose his name here. We let's just say we borrowed some horses from a neighbor's farm and went out joyriding, and Well, we lost the horses, and they were never to be found again. So I lost my scholarship as a result of that, and sort of had to look myself in the mirror. And I don't know. I always loved hockey, watching hockey, and even as a little kid, I would sit by the television and commentate. So it seemed like a natural transition to jump into broadcast journalism. So I decided to go to school for that, and I think it ended up working out all right.
And Lindy, like when I'm watching your game film, the stuff that you're doing now as a journalist and a guy that woulda, shoulda, coulda played, I'm looking at your beer league, just your attire in your wardrobe almost. And one of the things I noticed is, besides the spec sports goggles, was you wear a skateboarding helmet on the ice. Now, does that just fit a little bit your mop a little more, or complement it more, or is that one thing you've brought to the ice, and maybe even some guys in Saskatchewan have kind of followed your lead a little bit?
That was an isolated incident. They like hiding my Cooper bucket, or my teammates, so I had to run around the rink looking for something, and they wouldn't let me play without a bucket. So the rink manager rides his bicycle to the rink in the summers, so he happened to have that lying around. So that was an isolated incident. Yeah.
Right. And these days when you're playing beer league, Lindy, like how many beers is it before? How many is it after? And how many is it honestly during? Do you play buzz? Because as Jackie Moon once said, there's nothing in the rule book that says you can't play drunk. So are you one of those guys that likes to get out there and maybe play half cocked, or are you a guy that plays the game truly sobers and honors it that way?
I usually only have two pills before the game. At my age now, I can't really stay out there that long with some beer in the system. But post game, probably put down a baker's dozen. Yeah. With the fellas.
Yeah.
Like but yeah, just I can't be. I don't know. I've never been one that could crush him on the bench. Kudos to the guys who can, but that's just that's not how I can operate out there. And I want to perform well for my team, so if I'm out there dragging ass, and it's just not good for everyone. But if you guys know of a good like anti-fog spray, I've tried them all, and I can stay out. It's like 30 seconds, and then I'm like flying blind out there. So
I think you just got to go visy tint or visy tilt, tilt it up almost like it's not even there, but it's still there. I think that's the only solution that I've found, Jordan. I don't know if you have one.
Yeah. And Lindy, but before I kind of answer that question, are you mucking a tuna sandwich live on air right now? Is that just getting your protein?
Yeah, I'm on my lunch break. You guys are cutting into my lunch break. So I got a tuna Sammy right here. It's my lucky pre-show meal.
Yeah. Right back before you go to the mill.
Does make your mouth kind of dry.
Yeah, high and dry, if you will. But I'm not sure, Lindy. You could maybe, because you're rocking the specs, right? In terms of the goggles on the ice. I'm not sure if you need like a built-in windshield wiper, or you could maybe. I've actually heard one thing, and an obscure thing is you could maybe even spray a little deer antler spray on there. So that might work. You might have to look into that. Now I know that some guys get that. Yeah, it's a little bit poisonous. So if it does get in your eyes, there is a chance you could go blind. But I think the juice might be worth a squeeze there.
That's a risk I'm willing to take just to see out there, guys. Like I said, I love getting to the greasy areas, but if you can't see what the hell you're doing, you're of no use to your team.
Yeah.
So thanks 100%. For that tip there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lydia, I wanted to ask you, who is your player comparable? You know what I mean? Are you a guy like slapshot character, like a Mo Wanchuk, kind of just a team guy, a morale guy? Are you, you said you scored a fair amount of goals in junior. Has that transformed into men's league and in senior A up in Sask?
I'd like to think, let's say Rick Tocchet, probably. Guy, took a lot of PIMs, but put some numbers on the board too. Love the way he played Peterborough boy. Yeah, I'd say Rick Tocchet's one of my favorite players. But he's a bit younger than I am. But I'd say that's a comparable player. Obviously, he's a little more skilled than I am, but only a little bit. Yep.
Right. Yeah, the real rocket, Tocchet. And Lindy, I wanted to ask you, you're a big fan of Caesars, and you like having a couple in the morning, I believe, and especially on the weekends, obviously, a good Canadian drink, and in terms of having a few. So in and around Moose Jaw, I have actually a couple buddies from the Jaw. Where are you having a couple? Is it at the old Crush Can, which is formerly Champ Sports Bar?
Mhm.
There's the a couple different spots around town. Like, do you have a spot that you like to have one at? There's obviously a place called Brown's, I believe.
Sure.
The Park
Oh, yeah.
Hotel, a nice greasy bar, Boston Pizza on the north side. Is there one spot in the Jaw that you like to have a few at?
Yeah, there's quite a few. Mad Greek, great restaurant, good family. Also, they own Roto's Greek, salt of the earth family. Make a damn good Caesar there. Obviously, you said the Crush Can, a good little family bar, but then, at nighttime, the kids go away and it turns into quite a hotspot nightclub. So they make a dandy Caesar. Then there's this other place. It's sort of off the beaten path. And I guess I shouldn't talk about it because they don't have a legal liquor license, but it's known as Steve's. And let's just say it's somewhere out in the Waccamaw Valley.
I like that joint. Those places are the best. Not totally legal, but that means they're mixing them up stiff. Now, Lindy, I know good Canadians, they'll only drink Caesar. So I wanted to ask you, how much money would it take for you to drink a Bloody Mary rather than a Caesar?
I wish you hadn't asked that question. I don't think I'd ever want one. I've honestly never been to the States. The only time I was gonna go was when I was playing for Lake Superior, Lake Superior State. I guess I'd like a Bloody Mary, but I just love the clam, and it's a tasty drink. I can't get enough of them. The networks actually, they've been monitoring my Caesar intake, so they said no more liquid lunches for Lindy. So unfortunately, I can't be having one here with you guys. So right. They're cracking the whip here.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that actually, because I saw a little bit of your game film about the liquid lunch, and over here at Live in 5, Lindy, we're big believers of eating's cheating sometimes, and sometimes you just need to get fully on the piss and get your vegetables and your calories and your carbs through something like a Caesar, a Julius Caesar, if you will. So the liquid lunches, they're cutting back, they're kind of reining you in a little bit and saying, hey, maybe only one a week, maybe only on the weekends. Like, Lindy, you can't be drunk every day on air. I know you play better buzz sometimes, but Lindy, you got to tighten it up a little bit, even in the good province of Sask.
Well, yeah, the network, head of the network, I shouldn't say his name, but yeah, he's back in town now. He's a snowbird, lives in Phoenix half the year, and then he comes back in town and starts bossing everyone around. So he's here now, and yeah. So let's just say they don't give me a breathalyzer, but they sniff around. So I have to steer clear of them until work hours are over. But it's a perfect post-show cocktail.
100%. Yeah. You can't be getting caught breathing fire. Lindy, like, one spot I wanted to ask you about, a lot of the guys that played for the Moose Jaw Warriors and they played at the Crush Can back in the day, obviously they have a new arena there, but one spot is called AM Massage. Now, it's known for what we like to call a full body release. I think a lot of people can put that one together. So you go for a nice skate in the morning, and then you go for a happy ending over at AM Massage. Have you ever been a part of a 1-2 parlay like that in terms of just, really get your mind and body right, maybe after a morning skate leading up to a men's league game that night?
Well, I think you got your a little bit of a depraved question there, Jay Swish. I'd never go for a full release or whatever you want to call it. I actually go there so they can loosen up the hips. I got really tight hips, so actually tore my labrum. Had surgery on that. Tore both actually. So had surgery on that. So it's a good hip. They do a great hip massage. Get the legs going too. But I wouldn't know what you're talking about for the other question you're asking there.
Yeah, I think that might be an off the market thing at a market price, similar to how they sell crab at a nice seafood restaurant, right? It's, you gotta ask. It's market price. Probably changes on the daily and fluctuates depending on the going rate and the availability of maybe one of the masseuse. But yeah, we'll leave it at there. I just was, you like you mentioned, you stretch your body, stretch your career. So as long as those hips and glutes are getting activated for Lindy getting back on the ice that night, I think you're pretty much all set.
Yeah, I was on a little bit of a heater. I play in 2 leagues, and I had like 6 goals in my last 3 games, but then I was attacked by my neighbor's dog, bit me right in the fucking hand. so I can't. I'm sidelined at the moment. I can't risk
Is that-
infection.
Is that the old bottom hand or the top hand? You righty or lefty?
Bottom hand. It's my right hand. So no bueno, boys. And I
Not
can't
good.
lean in. I take a lot of clappers, so I can't lean into it. I know clappers in some leagues are sort of frowned upon, but I let it rip.
Lindy, I'm going to ask the question everyone's wondering. Your lid, is that all natural, or do you have to put some work into that?
Oh, it's mainly it's all natural. It's a lot of coconut oil.
Yeah.
And you can't overtreat your hair with shampoo, guys. You gotta let it breathe sometimes. Condition, leave-in conditioner. But yeah, coconut oil is my main I'd say my main go-to there.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, right? Also with this mop too, especially how I've been kind of growing it out.
There, Swish. Looks like it's getting a little dry there. Definitely look into the coconut oil.
Right, because I had actually, I'm not that I'm going green or anything, Lindy, but I had actually recently switched over to the avocado oil just because what I was reading on, just the science of hair follicles and your roots. So I went over to avocado, and especially being in the desert here, it's dry, brother. So you make a good point, whether it's a little coconut oil, maybe a little Diddy oil too, just to kind of get this mop dialed in,
I hear he's in some trouble. I don't follow his music, but I've seen in some of the local publications he might be in some trouble there.
Yeah, I think he's going to go down along with another couple people. You know what I mean? It's not looking good for old P Diddy. Yeah, I know you don't use the World Wide Web a ton up there, Lindy, but that's kind of the word on the streets in terms of it's not looking good for the old Diddy.
Well, that's sort of what he gets, I guess, right?
Yeah. I mean, you get what you pay for. But I wanted to ask you, Lindy, in terms of best town names in Saskatchewan besides Moose Jaw, obviously, and I want you to rank them. And if you have any little nuggets about them, or just little facts, or if you simply just want to rank them from funniest or best name to worst. But here's a couple names I got. We got Climax, Saskatchewan, one of my favorites, right?
That's a great one. Yep. I was hoping everyone go there.
Yeah, I mean, everyone appreciates a good climax, depending on if you look at it a book or whatever ways you want. You got Elbow, Saskatchewan. You got Eyebrow, Sask, Big Beaver. Then you got a town like Bigger. New York is big, but this is bigger. That's their slogan. And then one, Old Wives Lake and Porcupine Plain. So if you want to touch on any of these names, I think they're just legendary town names in Sask, obviously hilarious in their own right, but are there any of these ringing a bell, or have you played games in some of these, bumfuck towns? And I'm sure good people.
I've been through Climax. Haven't played there. Porcupine Pine, is that what it was? Porcupine Pine.
Yeah, Porcupine Plain, I believe it is.
Porcupine Plain, sorry, and then Old Wives Lake. Those ring a bell. I've never been through those parts, but yeah, I played out in Duck Lake. That's far north. It's up past Saskatoon. There's also a Foam Lake. But yeah, I've only been through Climax of the ones you've mentioned.
Yeah.
Do you want me to rank them? Do you want me to rank them though?
Yeah. I mean, we had Climax, Elbow, Eyebrow, Big Beaver. You got Bigger, Old Wives, and Porcupine Plain, where Kelly Chase is actually from.
Kelly Chase. I'll go with Old Wives Lake 1. I'll go Climax 2. Porcupine Plain 3. I've already forgotten the others.
You got Elbow,
Bigger.
Eyebrow.
Bigger. Oh,
Bigger.
Actually, that might be number 1. And then Eyebrow. Oh, geez. I might have to redo my rankings, but
yeah,
we can do that after. I can send you an email. I know how to use my email now. I'll send you an email with the rankings.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll update us that way. 100%. Yeah.
Lindy, I wanted to ask you, I know your show was top of the charts in Saskatchewan for quite some time, and now you're number 2, and you lost your top spot to a show called Knitflix, and I believe they talk about knitting and knitting quilts and stuff like that. How do you plan to retake the top spot from this dynasty of a show, Knitflix?
Well, they're just a bunch of old ladies who quilt. I don't understand the draw for this show. I mean, they're nice ladies, sure, but you're literally just watching old women quilt as they sit in a circle. So it's honestly kind of offensive to me that they're getting higher rankings than us. We bust our ass on the show. We've also, sorry, I'm finishing my tuna melt here. Sorry, tuna Sammy. It's not a melt today.
Yeah, no, take your time, Lindy. We got
okay.
You're good. Yeah, have a drink, smoke, whatever you need.
I can't. Another thing, the network. We just did it. Our most recent show. We got in trouble for. We had some cigarettes on the set, and of course, like I said, the head of the network's back, so he fined us. Who fines your own employees for something like that? But to answer your question, Ozzo, I think they took the lead because we had a bout of asbestos in our studio. So we had to miss several weeks of filming. So maybe the analytics would show that if they were truthful. I don't know if that was quantified or whatever, but that could be the dip that gave them the title for the moment. But we've got a we're really excited about this new hockey season here, and we're dead set on taking the crown from the old ladies.
Yeah, I like that. They've been on top too long.
Yeah, it's been about a year now, and it's a tough pill to swallow. So we're gonna turn things around. I've been stricken with this co-host Nick Farino, who I don't even know what his role is on the show, to be honest with you. But he was assigned to me by the head of the network because he's a good-looking boy or whatever. And he's supposed to appeal to the female demographic, which I took as a slap in the face. It's like, what's wrong with me? Why don't the ladies like me? Our male demo, the demo is like 91-9 male to female. So I guess now that I say that out loud, I can sort of see why they brought this guy in. But anyway, he still won't even play for my beer league teams either. So I take that as a punch below the belt.
And why is that, Lindy? I mean, we don't have to get into further detail, but is that a significant other thing? He doesn't, maybe his wife doesn't want you around. Maybe you get dragged into having Baker's dozen after the game. Like, why is that? Is he scared or what's going on?
I think he thinks he's too good for the league. He played in the O. He played for the Sioux Greyhounds. So I think he thinks he's just like too good for the league. And, to be honest with you, I wish he was on another team in the league so I could take a few runs at him.
Right. Yeah. Lower your shoulder and give him the old reverse.
Are you still throwing the elbows out there from time to time in beer league, or are you a little more respectful?
I mainly just slashes,
Yeah.
mainly slashing. Usually try to keep it on the stick. Sometimes it catches a wrist. It'll happen. Laces if I don't like the guy. If I really don't like the guy, I'll go laces.
So you get personal sometimes. It's not always personal. It's business sometimes, but other times it's personal.
Yeah, we have the oldest team in the league, so it's we might not be as fleet of foot as some of the younger guys out there, but we've got age and wisdom, and we can lay the lumber too. So we've got our own skill set as well.
And how many years left, Lindy, do you think you have of good hockey? Like, are you? You said you mentioned you don't have the fleetest of foot. You're maybe on the back nine per se of your career, and especially in men's league. But I mean, the way you look and the way you sound, it sounds like you got some, still some good years of hockey left, and what you can contribute not only on the ice but off.
I'd like to sail off into the sunset around 70. I want to play till 70, and if I'm ever a burden to my team, I hope they just tell me. I don't want to be that guy that's showing up and dragging them down, So I think I've got several years left. I definitely don't want to drop down off the top level, but if the boys get together and have a conversation, then I will oblige.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you, like, when you're going to these games, are you a rah-rah guy in the locker room? Are you kind of, almost like a Hanson brother slapshot style? Are you really dialed into your craft and kind of almost just in your own world as you go through your regiment before the game? Like, talk to me about your pregame antics.
I am a very slow dresser. I'm often out there, usually the last one out. I'm a very slow undresser too. I leave it all out there. So it's, I have no energy after the game. I'm just depleted. But pregame, I yak it up in the locker room. I love chatting it up and sort of just having fun, like taking the pressure off, and out on the bench, I'm talking a lot, positive reinforcement to a lot of the fellas on the team. If you have a good shift, I'll be the first to let you know.
Yeah.
I like that.
I wanted to ask you, where do you think, obviously you didn't have the illustrious career of some of these names and local natives of Moose Jaw, like a Doug Smale, who went to the University of North Dakota.
Yeah, Moose Jaw, former Moose Jaw Canuck in the Saskatchewan Junior League.
Yeah, so you had conversations, even just coming up through the ranks with Smaler, maybe even a Clark Gillies 4-time Stanley Cup winner with the Islanders back in the day. Like, are these some of your mentors or guys you looked up to when you were kind of coming up through the ranks?
We were sort of in between. I was a little younger than those fellows, but Chico Resch, great goalie. Ed Staniowski, another great goalie. Small guys. They were actually, back in the day, goalies were 5'9", and it's like Staniowski played for the Jets and the Blues. He won a Memorial Cup with Gillies. I think it was for Regina. Yeah, they played for Regina in '74. I think they won the Memorial Cup. But Smale went the American University route. He, played in the SJ and then played at Nodak, where you guys played. That's pretty neat. And then, there's Donnie Selesky, born in Moose Jaw, played for the Flyers, Broad Street Bully days, hell of a player. But yeah, I'm very prideful of Moose Jaw and the NHLers that have come out of the region. And, obviously Clark Gillies being, the top of the mountain, just an absolute legend and a warrior, old Jethro, and hell of a player. We miss him.
Yeah. Lindy, you've obviously seen all these great hockey players throughout time. I think you have a great knowledge of the game. Who would you say is the greatest player of all time?
That's a tough question. I've gotten to heated arguments about this with folks, but I've got to go with Bobby Orr. Redefine the position of a defenseman. Who's to say what numbers he could have put up if his career wasn't cut short? I think he was out of the league. He had to retire at 30 or 31. Just an absolute beast, a great guy, the Prince of Prairie Sound. I'll die on that hill. I think he was so much more skilled than anyone at his time playing the game. You could say the same for Gretzky, but I think Orr was just, I think he's the best to do it.
Yeah, Robert Gordon Orr, I believe, had a 915 points in 600 odd games. Obviously, you said the Prince of Prairie Sound. So you have him over Wayne Gretzky. That is confirmed.
I do.
That is
yes.
Right out of Lindy McLeod's mouth. Wow, the number one.
And you would tell the great one that to his face.
Undoubtedly.
Wow,
right to his face.
Okay. That's,
yeah.
I mean, I'm a defenseman, so I like this argument. I might jump on board and kind of get some more points from you, talking points when I get in this argument. I'll battle some people on this because I can get behind a defenseman being named the greatest hockey player of all time.
Well, how was Gretz that good of a defensive forward? I guess he didn't need to be, but Orr was great defensively, great offensively. You couldn't get the puck from the guy. And he was just beloved in Boston. I don't know, like you see footage of the guy skating. It's just some of the clips should just be hanging in the Louvre. He's an unbelievable hockey player. I mean, Gretz is solid number 2, but
right.
But yeah, I'm going Bobby Orr all day on that.
Yeah, solid number 2. I mean, look at that tape job too.
Oh,
on the Prairie Sound Prince. I mean, that's lesser than Jamie Benn. It was one strand of black tape, kind of a quarter of the way up the blade from the heel. Now, Lindy, is that a tape job you implemented into your game, or are you not good enough to use that? You can be honest with us.
When I was younger, I was a 2-strip guy. But now with sticks so expensive, I pretty much tape the whole blade. What I do have a gripe about, and this is nitpicking and it's a stylistic choice, but why are these kids taping their blades and going up the friggin' shaft with some of the tape jobs? Have you guys seen this?
So you're talking about the full-on sock, the old Robert.
It's ridiculous. What is
Robert
that?
Lang. So
yeah, I don't understand it. It's just a waste of tape.
Yeah, and one guy that like William Nylander does that. There's a couple other guys that
Bedard,
like the
I
full.
think Bedard does it
Yeah, Bedard.
a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. He's
some
got
of
like he's got like
mostly the young
he's-
kids.
Yeah, he's
They
got,
don't want,
but
they don't want that heel getting cold out there. They need to keep the blade a little warm. Treat it well. It's just like wearing a half calf sock. And
Yeah.
I can get behind it. I think it's a good look.
Okay, see, as coming from a 2-strip guy playing in junior, I'm more of Jamie Benn and Bobby Orr.
right, Robert Gordon Orr. Lindy, I wanted to ask you, like, obviously with Utah coming into the league, Arizona exiting, and I was boots on the ground for the inaugural game there in Utah versus Bedard and the Chicago Blackhawks.
Mhm.
Do you think hockey in Utah can last strictly just based on 3% beers? I mean, I'm a guy like you. I like to have a baker's dozen beers. I like to have some tequila. To get to the tequila line at the arena, well, you had to go to the 5th level, and you had to go to the sanctioned bar area, Lindy, and you had to stay in there. You got ID'd twice, and you couldn't leave with your drink. So I ended up just going to that bar between periods, literally one-touching 2 tequilas, and then getting out of there. They didn't even offer a double either. So it's like, I gotta be right buzzed, as the old Sasky guys would say, walking out of there. And I can't even catch a buzz.
That's a travesty. Why? What's the percentage of the beers? You said 3%.
3%.
3%. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It's I know you've never been south of the border, but
It ain't great.
It ain't great, Lindy.
That's got to change. I mean, that's they moved to Arizona to go drink 3.2% beers.
Yeah. Even less.
I don't know if you're not making a great case for me to go to the States here, fellas. Jesus, 3.2% beers. Or I guess it's just Utah, but you had to go to another level to drink a margarita? Is that what you said?
Lindy, I had to go up to level 5 to get a tequila because it was the only sanctioned area in the whole arena where you could get hard alcohol, aka hard piss. So you go up there to this bar and they serve you, and you have to stay in that area until you finish your drink.
You can't even watch the game. How much of the game you miss? 10 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, I went up there at the start of intermission in the in between 1 and 2, and I came back down and I was already at 14 minutes because they're not making them fast either. It's like they don't want you to catch a buzz.
That's garbage. Also the rink, it doesn't look like it's really meant for hockey. I saw, and again, I'm just basing it from the television, but some weird vantage points and all that. But I honestly, I think Arizona just bungled it with the ownership. I think their biggest mistake, and again, I've never been there, but building that rink, the Gila, whatever the fuck it's called, out 35 miles west of civilization. How are you going to get teams to go there? How are you going to get fans to go there? Sorry. I do hope hockey does return to the desert. It is a desirable place for me if I ever go down to the States, because it's so friggin' cold here, up in Sask. But I do hope that they get a good ownership group down there in Arizona who can build a proper rink in, the metropolitan Phoenix area. But hey, it does seem like there is a good ownership group in Utah, but they got to get their shit together with this alcohol situation. I mean, geez, that's no bueno.
That ain't great. Lindy, when are they going to bring an NHL team to Sask? I think that's something they need to do. Is that ever going to happen? And where would it be if they did? Would it be in Moose Jaw? Or would it be somewhere else like Saskatoon?
I think it'd be Saskatoon, unfortunately. They tried, but the city's just not big enough. It's the population of the province isn't all that great. And while I'd love to have a team there, I think we all have our regional NHL teams we root for. I'm a Flames fan. I mean, end of the day, I'm a fan of Canadian NHL teams. I want to come back to Canada, and if it's, people might crucify me for saying this, but if it's the Leafs or the Habs, even the Oilers, I just want a Canadian team to win the cup.
You might need them to lower the taxes up there if you want that to happen. I think that's a big problem.
It is. Yeah, it's. I feel like, and this is obviously a conversation for another day, but players getting to go to tax-free places and signing these big deals like in Florida, it's like, how do you compete with that if you're in the Canadian market? So I don't know if it's adjusting the cap. Obviously, that would probably not work out, but something needs to be looked at there because it's just not fair.
Yeah, 100%. And as you mow down on that chicken of the sea sandwich there, Lindy, I wanted to ask you, let's go back to the Leafs. Obviously, Canada hasn't had a cup since the 93 season of the Montreal Canadiens. Is this a team that can get it done with, Calahoo, Alberta native Craig Berube and chief at the helm there in terms of the head coach? And give me your thoughts and your honest thoughts of Mitch Marner. Like, could he watch, as an undersized guy, some of maybe your highlights and how you play with your nose over the puck? You're not scared to go to the 4x6 in front of the net and hack it up and use that fire poker as a little bit of a weapon if you have to in terms of your stick or your lumber. Like, what does Marner need to do to get over that hump to, ultimately will this team to a Stanley Cup contender?
Well, I think they have a great coach in Berube. He's going to get them to play hockey the right way. I don't know if Marner is just cut out for the playoffs. He's a hell of a skilled player, great defensively too, but he just doesn't have that grease in his game. And I don't know. I don't know if the Leafs are built for the playoffs. This new team, they could be. They just lack the bite. Like, look at the Panthers are just dogs. It's like it's no surprise they won the cup last year. I think I still don't think the Leafs. Everyone's ranking them ahead of at the top of the East, but I don't think they're going to get by Boston. Boston's a bunch of junkyard dogs this year too. It's and they're monsters on the back end. They're like McAvoy's the smallest at 6'1", 215. So, like, I think Zadorov was a great pickup for them. I think Elias Lindholm's going to be have a nice career resurgence playing in the 1C there. But back to the Leafs, jury's out. I mean, Stolarz is a good goalie, but he's just been a backup his whole career. Doesn't mean he can't take the reins and run with it. Woll seems to be, he's a good goalie when he's on, but he's got his, he seems to have some injury troubles, but I just don't know if they've figured it out, and it's hard to construct a roster with their cap issues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
sorry, 100%. I don't know if I answered your question about Marner.
No,
he's gotta just add some grease to his game.
Yeah,
he's got no jam. He's not in the jelly business. I got to see a little more from him. He's, again, hell of a skilled player. And again, great defensive winger too, but playoffs are a different animal.
Yeah. All bark, no bite. You can add a little, I don't know, WD-40, maybe some coconut oil or maybe some sort of concoction that'll get you over the hump and really grease it in there, because right now I'm with you. Lindy, I wanted to ask you, just like, what is a guy, your former roommate, up to these days in Mike Babcock? Is he kind of hiding out ever since the Columbus saga after taking Fantilli's phone and asking to see his nudie collection? Like, what is Babs up to? Is he kind of hiding and just, is he think, like, as crazy as he is, does he actually think he's going to coach again, or you just cut all ties with a man like that ever since the U of Sask?
I don't, when he was on the show, excuse me, I just burped that was a Caesar. Yep. I was sipping a Caesar. I lied, guys. Don't tell the network. He's probably just up in Saskatoon hunting bear, but I don't know. He's still like a highly regarded figure in the hockey world. I think he's sort of like an unofficial advisor to several coaches, which I don't know. I don't like the way he treats players. I think there's a fine line, and he's crossed it a few times. So I don't think he's coming back. But again, who am I? I'm just Lindy McLeod from Moose Jaw. It's like God knows what some of these front office people are doing with their decision making. Stan Bowman coming back? What? What?
Right.
I mean, it's fucking crazy.
What is old is now new again, and that is similar to your kind of look, Lindy. You got a retro look. Obviously, you're an older fella yourself. You're not going to age you here, but being Mike Babcock's roommate, kind of ages you in the style department. And I like your holistic look, Sasky look. Like, I got to ask you, Did you have to shoot a couch to put that blazer on today, or is that just something that maybe you picked up over at a
vintage JC Penney here? My father. Much of my wardrobe is from my father, Lindy Senior. His nickname was Toe McLeod. He had web toes. He was a goalie, and so I inherited a lot of his wardrobe. And it might date me a little bit, but it's a good luck charm, and I frankly like the way it looks. And fashion's cyclical, fellas. So who's to say this isn't going to be coming back anytime soon? Or soon,
Yeah, no, I love it. It looks like a 70s couch. It's got a nice, just, plaid look to you. You know what I mean? You could almost like a napkin you could find at Thanksgiving where you just wipe off the turducken, the old turkey, duck, and chicken all stuffed into one.
Mm-hmm.
And, all of a sudden you got that right off your plate. And you look good and you kind of hide it on that napkin. So, yeah, that's a very iconic yet, retro look, Lindy.
Thank you. Yeah, it's polyester gets a bad rap, fellas. I just don't understand. So I'll rock it. I can also hide. I spill a lot on myself. So like Caesars or coffee or tuna, and when you wear a busy pattern like this, you can kind of spill anything you want on it.
Yeah, a little trick of the trade. I like that. I might start using that. Buying some more. Whatever you call it, that the stripes and the lines, the busy.
Sure.
I might have to do that because I do spill on myself as well. I was just out eating with the in-laws the other day and I spilled on my white shirt. I looked terrible.
It always happens. It's, what, for me, it's always, and this is why I hate salad. It's always balsamic vinaigrette. And I go to take a bite and flings right on my shirt. And then your shirt's toast because that shit doesn't come out. So I don't really eat salads anymore because of that.
I was going to say, speaking of balsamic vinaigrette, did you ever put any of that in your own salad? Have you tried that out in terms of a product?
That's a good question. I haven't, but if the coconut oil runs dry, that's a good alternative.
Yeah. I mean, I know in tough times and tough measures, not dating myself back to COVID, but I was putting everything in between balsamic to blue cheese to, any sort of oil I could find for my mop over here. Right. And it that blue cheese actually put a little stench of, I would say, blue, no pun intended, into my hair. Ooh. So I kind of have that, sandy blonde with a hint of blue cheese in it, just because it's dry age. Blue cheese is obviously a mold, and I kind of get that fungi in my mop now. So yeah, I was just curious.
You're not making a case for me to come to the States if you're telling me you reek like blue cheese, buddy. But I think you got to get some more avocado oil in there if that's what you're using. But coconut oil, it's looking dry. It could be the desert, but it's looking dry. I'll never put blue cheese in my hair though. That's just absolutely ludicrous. But
I appreciate the honesty, first of all. And I got to ask you, any signs to get a passport, Lindy? I know you've, floated the idea of making your way over the border, but, you're a guy that's never technically owned a passport, I believe, just looking at the game notes.
Yeah. Why? Go to the States so I can drink 3.2% beers? Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, maybe.
Based on that alone.
Maybe, let's say, if the Flames go to the Cup against an American team, then you might catch me coming down there. Depends. It depends.
That's it. That'd be the only you'd come down to the States.
I mean, what other reason would there be to go down there? I can't think of one right now. But
no.
Plus, I get to see McDavid if he comes. Goes to He plays. Edmonton's only 7.5 hours away, so I can drive up there.
Would you say McDavid's the best player in the National League right now? Because we were kind of thinking it was Austin Matthews.
This is a tough. I think this is a tougher question than the one about Orr and Gretzky. I think he is, despite the no cup. He's a gamer. Even in the playoffs, he's a gamer. I think he'll go down potentially as the best player to ever play the game. Potentially. Not quite at Orr's level yet, but potentially. Matthews, best goal scorer in the league, though. Yeah, right now.
Yeah.
No, I'll take that.
Best goal scorer, best player. But I wanted to ask you, Lindy, where's got the best poutine? Maybe in Western Canada or in Moose Jaw? Like, obviously you can't get the old Vladimir poutine here in the States in terms of what you can get up there. And, where can I get the fries and gravy and a little cheese on that? Because, if I'm coming up to Moose Jaw and, we play in a men's league game, like we got to go for some poutine before, just an absolute gut bomb to kind of get our barrels established that way.
Absolutely. I mean, the Crush Can has a great one. Owner Alex is a great guy. They make a dandy of a poutine. Bugsy's makes a good one. But yeah, come on up. We've got some really good poutine up here. I obviously begrudgingly will say that the best are in Montreal, but that'll be the last time I ever say that.
Right.
Yeah.
We got to get up there and play a men's league game, and hopefully off the air and off the record smoke a couple cigarettes too, because it's always good to get your lungs established that way and hit the ice accordingly.
Oh, absolutely. I smoke Belmonts. I have asthma, but I smoke Belmonts. It's I just it gives me the kick I need. Pre-game, nice Belmont. Post-game, nice Belmont. Pre-show, Belmont.
Yeah.
But no, I'd love to have you guys. Two steady Eddie defensemen on our team. I always say the most important position in beer league is defenseman. Got a nice first outlet pass and kill the rush.
Yeah. Yeah,
if you got good defensemen, you can get by with a shitty goalie. But yeah, you can have
count on me.
Yeah. If you get 6 good forwards, your team's nothing if you don't have any good D. So
100%. Ozzo, you got anything else left for Lindy before we let him go? I know he's got a big game tonight. Obviously, probably has to have a few Caesars off the air before that. But you got anything for the Moose Jaw native?
No, I just had, I think my last question is going to be, how much does a pack of those Belmonts go for in Canada? I know it's a little more expensive than down here in the States. That might be one reason you should come down to the States. We got cheaper chew, cheaper beer, cheaper cigarettes. So you might need to take advantage of that.
They're running about 19 a pack now. It's not great. So, yeah. But I'm trying to cut back myself. Like I said, at my age, I can barely stay out there for 30 seconds, but I go full tilt for, 110% for those 30 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, you almost got to win at the VLTs and then turn that into, a couple packs of Belmonts, and all of a sudden you have a nice little day on your hands. So yeah, Lindy, no, we appreciate you, brother, for stopping by. Obviously, out there in the barn, the connection was spotty to start, but we got it dialed in, man. And I can't wait to get up there and, film some content with you or whatever we do, because, you're giving the good people of ice hockey all over the place something to, look forward to every day. I love your content, watching you in your show. So thanks again for stopping by, brother. And thank you again for actually eating that tuna sandwich on air. It's always good to see you're getting your protein in too.
Fellas, the pleasure is all on this side of the computer here. Swish and Ozzo, I really appreciate you guys having me on your show. Love to come back again.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Lindy.
We'll have to tee it up mid-season, get a beer league update. It would actually be nice too, Lindy, if you could maybe provide a link or even just like a notebook pad of your stats in men's league per game, because I think the people would like to see that too, just see how you're doing, your PIMs, if you got the fights.
Yeah. I can fax that over to you guys if you give me your I know I can email. Yeah, I can email. Yep. I know how to email. Remember I said that at the beginning of the program? I know how to email now. So yeah, they're technology is a great thing now. So we got to embrace it.
100%. And I'm actually going to hang up on this call and go right over to JC Penney. Now, I don't know if they're going to have that exact look, but I'm going to take a screenshot and say, can you shoot a couch anywhere around here and make me a suit out of polyester? Because that is a clean look. I'm rocking the jean jacket, but I think I can take my style up another level with that, brother.
This one I actually might have procured off of eBay. It's that internet site. But I think, I don't know where my dad's got a lot of amazing suits. So I'm just trying to honor him and make him look good.
Absolutely. And we appreciate your time, folks. That was Lindy McLeod, live from Moose Jaw, an absolute beauty, beer league legend, obviously formerly Mike Babcock's roommate at U of Sask. Folks, we hope you enjoy that.
Been to Sydney and Singapore and Old Bali High, but I've been to Moose Jaw, now I can die.